Auntie, I'm giving up on chasing Uncle. In a month, after I've handed over my responsibilities, I'm leaving this circle and going to Provence. It's good that you've come to your senses. Joseph isn't right for you. Setting aside the generational gap, when you confessed to him at 18, if he'd felt even the slightest romantic interest, he wouldn't have entered monastic life and become the renowned Buddhist master he is now, after hanging up. Ethel gazed at the brightly lit Buddhist shrine in her living room. This was what Joseph had brought home the very next day after rejecting her confession at 18. But these 7 years, she still hasn't given up. One can still return to secular life after entering Buddhism. After all, she and Joseph aren't blood related. She could wait, she could endure. But now she can't endure any longer. Yesterday, the Buddhist monk publicly announced his relationship, leaving monastic life for love. His beloved is a pure and innocent female college student from Ingda University, Giselle. The topic has been trending ever since. She stayed up all night, calling Joseph 88 times, but every call was rejected. After 7 years of pursuing love, he chose someone else, and she's finally exhausted. Joseph, she no longer wanted to love. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Moving her numb body, Ethel got up and went upstairs. Since she had decided to leave, it was time to pack her things. She never bore the surname Kennedy, and now she would never have the chance to be registered in the Kennedy family's household register. The Kennedy household was no longer a suitable place for her to stay, yet standing before the 80-square-meter bedroom, gazing at the room filled with confession notes, a faint sense of bewilderment arose in her heart. At the age of 15, when her parents died in a car accident, she was taken back to the Kennedy family by Joseph. Traumatized, she had nightmares every night, so Joseph kept vigil by her bedside. When depression robbed her appetite, this CEO who had never set foot in a kitchen humbled himself to cook for her, coaxing her to eat. He took her out to unwind, and anything that caught her eye for more than a glance would inevitably be purchased by him. When schoolmates called her a burden, Joseph severed the Kennedy family's business ties with that classmate's family and had them expelled. He fulfilled her every whim, so long as it brought her joy. But after the college entrance exams at age 18, when she confessed her feelings to Joseph, everything changed. He was shocked and even disgusted by her love, saying she shouldn't mistake familial affection for romance, and that she needed to correct this mistake promptly. He even entered monastic life, never smiling at her again. Even though he remained the CEO of the Kennedy family, continued working, and remained a genius director writing scripts and investing in films, he never returned to Chengyuan Manor, keeping his distance from her. Ethel tears down the love notes covering the walls one by one. 7 years, some have already yellowed with age. Every time she thought of Joseph, she would record her longing in that moment. These things shouldn't remain to irritate Joseph and his beloved. After cleaning up, the entire room feels hollow. The mottled glue marks on the walls resemble scars. The older they are, the more shocking they appear. Ethel carried the box downstairs when she received a call from her agent. Susan, Ethel, the mural script has been discussed 5 times. The crew made it clear, no matter how perfect you are for the role, this is Joseph's project, and he refuses to cast you. We're best friends. I've watched you openly pursue Joseph for 5 years since you entered the industry, and I've seen him reject you time and again, making you a laughingstock. He's already made it official, just stop liking him. Okay. Ethel was about to respond when she suddenly bumped into someone around the corner. The box fell, scattering love letters everywhere. The familiar scent of sandalwood wafted through the air. Ethel looked up in surprise, meeting a pair of deep, unreadable eyes. The tall man stood against the light, a string of Buddhist prayer beads wrapped around his wrist, his handsome face exuding an air of ascetic detachment. Uncle, it's been a long time. Ethel felt somewhat uneasy. For these 7 years, whenever she was home, Joseph never returned to Chengyuan. Yet Joseph continued up the stairs without sparing her a glance, his voice cold as it struck her. The mural already has its ideal candidate. Don't waste your efforts on me, it's pointless. His evasive demeanor made it clear he feared being entangled by her. Ethel let out a silent, bitter laugh. She had entered the entertainment industry just to see him more often. Every time she met Joseph, she publicly confessed her feelings and mentioned collaborating. Without exception, she was rejected every time. Yet if only Joseph had looked closer, he would have noticed the countless confession posts scattered everywhere, all meant for him. Now, she was ready to let go of these 7 years of affection. She was truly giving up. After destroying the confession note, Ethel returned from the back garden to find Joseph unusually dressed in soft loungewear. His usual Buddhist detachment momentarily softened. Ethel approached slowly. This version of Joseph exuded a lazy elegance, almost reminiscent of his youthful days. He was instructing the butler to hire a Sichuan cuisine chef, but neither she nor Joseph particularly enjoyed spicy food. Joseph glanced at her, paying no attention to what she had done in the garden. Only when turning to go upstairs did he calmly instruct, "Your future aunt will move in tomorrow. I expect you to get along well with her from now on." Ethel froze, instinctively clenching her hands. In the past, had she heard of any woman exchanging more than a few words with him, she would have rushed to ask him directly, was he planning to renounce his monastic vows? How is she inferior to others? But now, facing Joseph's heavy gaze, she quickly adjusted her emotions and obediently smiled. "Don't worry, uncle, I will." He didn't need to test or warn her. Upon waking from the dream, the one who loved him, Ethel, was forever left in the night before. Perhaps it was Ethel's tactfulness that pleased Joseph. That evening, attending an elder's birthday banquet, Joseph was willing to take her along. From age 18 until now, a full 7 years, Joseph finally permitted her to ride in his car once more. The extended Lincoln with license plate 88888 was the kind of car that made everyone yield the right of way. Ethel stepped into the car, immediately enveloped by the sandalwood scent emanating from the man, so reminiscent of when she once nestled in his embrace. She slowed her breathing, deliberately choosing the far-right window seat, leaving one person's space between herself and Joseph. Once seated, she gazed fixedly out the window, silently watching the bustling traffic flow past. She wasn't like this before. Back then, the moment she got in the car, she would cling to Joseph, wrapping herself around him while sharing all sorts of things, what friends she'd made, what happy things had happened. She loved how he'd gaze at her with doting indulgence, that tolerant smile. Now, she doesn't anymore. As he wished, she would keep her distance from him. "Why aren't you saying anything?" Perhaps because the car was too quiet, Joseph actually initiated conversation. Ethel turned her head toward him but avoided meeting his gaze, asking meekly, "Do you have any instructions?" The words fell, and the air in the car grew heavier. Only Joseph's rhythmic clicking of prayer beads broke the silence. Several seconds later, he finally asked coldly, "What are you trying to stir up now?" Though his tone was calm, Ethel could still tell that Joseph was angry. But she didn't understand why he was angry. Wasn't keeping their distance his request in the first place? She didn't want to bother guessing the reason either, so she simply went along with his words. "Sorry, I might be a little tired." "Then get some proper rest if you're tired." After that, neither spoke another word the whole way. Ethel closed her eyes to hide her discomfort, the pervasive sandalwood scent in the car making her dare not relax her breathing for even a moment. Fortunately, upon arriving at the banquet venue, Joseph was no longer by her side. After paying respects to the elders for the birthday celebration, Ethel slipped away to rest on the tea room's balcony. She had never been skilled at social niceties. In the past, her parents had shielded her, and later Joseph had protected her. She could avoid socializing without facing neglect. But 7 years ago, after her falling out with Joseph, she had endured no shortage of scorn. Most cursed her for being shameless. Disregarding moral principles as she eagerly threw herself at Joseph, the wind picked up, and the early summer evening breeze still carried a chill. Ethel was about to leave, her hand already pushing against the door, when she overheard a conversation from inside the tea room. "Joseph, Giselle bears a 70% resemblance to Ethel, but she's far less beautiful than Ethel. Everyone can see how the young girl feels about you, since you're planning to leave the monastic life anyway. Why not choose Ethel?" Ethel paused. This was the very question she had wanted to ask last night. 5 years ago, her celestial Buddha dance made her an overnight sensation across the internet as the Flying Apsara. Giselle was a student at the Film Academy, debuting under the moniker Little Apsara. Joseph, why would he choose a counterfeit over her? By now, she no longer clung to the answer. At that moment, Joseph's indifferent voice rang out, "They're not comparable. Don't say such things in front of me again." Ethel thought she would feel pain, yet she stood here remarkably composed, continuing to listen to their conversation. Letting go of Joseph wasn't as difficult as she had imagined. At 10 o'clock in the evening, the banquet ended. Ethel caught a fever after returning to Chengyuan Garden from standing too long in the balcony breeze. In her delirium, she instinctively tightened her grip on the body prayer beads around her wrist. This was something Joseph had knelt in the temple all night praying for during that winter when she was 16 and running a persistent high fever. Since then, she had rarely fallen ill. The coolness of the prayer beads soothed her feverish restlessness, and she finally drifted off to sleep. The next day, she was awakened by a clamor of noise. Ethel pressed a hand to her dizzy head and descended the stairs with a sickly pallor, only to find that all the pink forget-me-nots planted in the yard had been uprooted. The language of pink forget-me-nots is eternal love. She had them planted when she was 18, believing then that she would always love Joseph and that he would eventually accept her. The vibrant flowers were torn out by their roots, their petals crushed into the dirt. It was just like Ethel's years of entanglement with Joseph, the trampled affection. Ms. Ethel, a gentle female voice interrupted Ethel's thoughts. She turned her head to see Giselle in a white dress smiling as she approached. "We'll be family from now on. Please take care of me." Ethel nodded slightly in acknowledgement. She would soon leave this place. With no intention of speaking further to Ethel, turning to walk away, she heard Giselle ask again, "By the way, Joseph said white roses suit me, so the garden will be replanted with white roses. I heard forget-me-nots are your favorite. You're not upset, are you?" Ethel paused, catching the fleeting glimmer of triumph in the other's eyes. At this moment, Joseph walked over carrying his trench coat and thoughtfully draped it over Giselle, saying, "The mountain breeze is chilly, and you're still coughing. Go inside and rest. I've called the family doctor. It's fine." Giselle nestled snugly into the man's embrace like a little bird. Joseph lowered his head gently to fasten the buttons on the coat of the person in his arms. Seemingly forgetting that Ethel was still standing nearby, it wasn't until they were about to go inside that he turned his head and glanced at Ethel. Noticing her pale complexion, he said indifferently, "You should have the doctor take a look at you too while we're at it." "Thank you, uncle. But I have an appointment with my agent and won't disturb you any further." Ethel had no interest in being their third wheel. For the following week, Ethel didn't return to Chengyuan. It wasn't until the Triennial Best Actress Awards that she saw Joseph and Giselle again. The agent Susan looked extremely displeased as she told Ethel that winning this trophy had originally been a sure thing for Ethel. But then Joseph went crazy and intervened for Giselle. Ethel had signed an agreement with the company. If she failed to secure this trophy, she would have to break her 5-year acting boundary and take on intimate scenes. Soon, the host announced, "Congratulations to the Best Actress Award winner, Giselle. We invite Mr. Joseph to present the award." Ethel felt no great surge of emotion in her heart. No one understood better than her how ostentatious Joseph could be when he cared for someone. Giselle wept with joy, standing arm in arm with Joseph after receiving the award. After thanking everyone and basking in envious gazes, she finally looked toward Ethel. "Truthfully, the person I most want to thank today is Ms. Ethel. I wonder if I might receive your blessing." The spotlight fell on Ethel, and everyone eagerly watched the drama unfold. For the past 5 years, Ethel had publicly declared her love for Joseph, who didn't know she was head over heels for him. Now, publicly called out by Joseph's officially announced girlfriend, could Ethel keep her composure? Yet Ethel gracefully rose to her feet, meeting the intense gaze from the stage, and calmly replied, "Congratulations to you both." The crowd disperses. Ethel, the defeated newcomer actress, quickly became trending news online, sparking a wave of mockery. Black publicity is still publicity. Capitalizing on the hype, her agency landed her a new role in the drama Longing for the Mundane. The script contained numerous kissing scenes, even including a blindfolded bedroom sequence. Ethel used to refuse intimate scenes for Joseph, at most holding hands with male actors. But now, after all, she's about to leave the industry. Take it. The moment she relented, Ethel's intimate scenes became promotional material for the company, having preserved her screen-first kiss for Joseph. Ethel's sudden break from principal sparked another wave of online buzz. Ethel paid no mind and returned to Cheng Garden to clear out her remaining belongings, faced with a closet full of items. She found herself at a loss for where to begin. From priceless jewelry in the cabinet to handmade ceramic dolls, everything was Joseph's way of winning her favor. During those years, Joseph spoiled her into becoming the little princess everyone knew. People said that even if she wanted Joseph's life, he would undoubtedly carve out his heart and offer it without hesitation. Perhaps she heard such words too often, for she truly began to believe she could stay with Joseph forever, year after year. She stubbornly and publicly declared her love for him, trying to prove her feelings weren't mere familial affection only to be met with his growing distance. Ethel carefully packed these memory-filled items one by one into cardboard boxes. A whole day passed in a flurry of activity, and before she knew it, dusk had fallen. She summoned the housekeeper to deal with the boxes and specifically instructed, replace everything in the room with black, white, and grey tones. The housekeeper sighed. "Are you trying to match the master's style?" The entire Chengyuan estate knew that black, white, and grey were Joseph's preferred style. But Ethel didn't mean it that way. She merely wanted to erase all traces of herself, to show that she wouldn't cling to Joseph anymore. Yet Ethel offered no explanation. She ran her fingers over the body prayer beads still encircling her wrist, 18 beads in total, each polished to a glossy sheen, each carrying the lingering imprint of her presence. Ethel left with nothing but this string of body prayer beads in her hand. On her way downstairs, she received another call from her second aunt. "Ethel, everything's ready here in Provence. You can come now." Your aunt can still afford those penalty fees from your company. My niece won't be bullied so easily. Ethel declined with a laugh. Don't believe those online rumors. I'm not being bullied. My agent Susan is my best friend. She'd never let me be mistreated. That's good. Have you told your uncle about you leaving? Ethel paused mid-step, then replied with utmost calm. Uncle is busy. There's no need to tell him. Before the words had fully faded, the scent of sandalwood appeared. A cool male voice came from ahead. What exactly is there no need to tell me? Ethel looked up. Meeting Joseph's calm inquiry, she naturally ended the call and lied without changing her expression. Auntie said you're a genius director and told me to ask for your opinion when taking on new scripts, but I figured you probably wouldn't have time. The repeated use of you made Joseph's expression grow even colder, his tone shifting to an unceremonious interrogation. When did you get in touch with your aunt? 5 years ago. Joseph was about to say more when Giselle emerged from the kitchen carrying dishes, greeting them gently. Ms. Ethel, dinner's almost ready. Why don't you eat before heading out? Your brother-in-law personally cooked spicy vegetarian chicken today. It's absolutely divine. Ethel shook her head. No, the film crew is busy. She can't handle spicy food. Joseph clearly didn't want her to stay. She had no interest in watching him bestow the tenderness that once belonged solely to her upon someone else. Ethel rushed to join the film crew overnight. She had never filmed intimate scenes before, nor had she ever been in a relationship. Yet the director ordered her to spend 18 hours a day with her male co-star in a couple-like dynamic. Her co-star was the popular heartthrob Leo, tall and handsome, with a knack for taking care of others. Coupled with the intense filming schedule, Ethel found herself with no time to think about anyone or anything else. Half a month later, the first kissing scene arrived. It was also Ethel's first kiss. The mood setters are ready, the lighting is ready, and the shoot is in position. Under the sunset glow, by the big tree, Ethel was held by Leo, feeling the scent of male vegetation approaching, and she nervously closed her eyes. The last second before the kiss landed, crash, boom, a black stretch Lincoln suddenly knocked over a spotlight, stopping just a step away from Ethel. License plate number 58. It was Joseph's car. Ethel, get in the car. The car window rolled halfway down, revealing Joseph's aristocratic and aloof face. Ethel didn't move, merely pushing away Leo's protective stance as she coolly rejected Joseph. Sorry, I still have scenes to film. Joseph hadn't expected to be rejected either, his stern face darkening further in an instant. You don't do kissing scenes, what are you making a fuss about now? Ethel quietly watched the displeasure flashing across the man's features, never feeling more clear-headed than at this moment. The uncle who once doted on her beyond measure had long since disappeared. Her stubborn delusion, these years of entanglement, had only succeeded in deepening his disgust, but this time she truly didn't make a scene. If Joseph hadn't snatched her Best Actress trophy to give to Giselle, she wouldn't have lost the bet, nor would she have taken on this intimate scene. Yet she knew all too well that Joseph would never believe her explanation. After all, she had a record, having once attempted to use intimate scenes to catch his attention, later when he ignored her. She backed out at the last minute, causing the crew to spread rumors of her being a diva. It took Susan immense effort to suppress the news. Now, Ethel could openly smile at Joseph and say, as a dedicated actress, sacrificing for art, kissing scenes are nothing special. As the words fell, Joseph suddenly let out a light laugh, crisp as ice shattering, sending a jolt through those who heard it. Ethel could tell he was angry but had no intention of placating him. Please leave the set and don't disrupt our filming. Joseph glanced at her, his gaze indescribably frosty. He didn't speak again. The car window rolled up, and the stretched Lincoln drove away. Only after Joseph left did the crew members dare to breathe loudly again. That's the Buddha's child for you. No wonder he's a big shot. That glance he gave almost made me kneel. Ethel confessed her love to him for 5 years, and he never gave her a decent look. Now that he's officially announced his relationship with someone else, he comes looking for Ethel. What kind of game is the big shot playing? Ethel once again became the center of gossip. Beside her, Leo attempted to lighten the mood. Shall we continue? Ethel was about to nod when the director suddenly announced through a megaphone. The sunset's already gone. We'll shoot this scene another day. Wrap for today. Ethel rarely got to return to the hotel early for rest. A message from Joseph appeared on her phone. Come see me after work. She was slightly surprised. 5 years had passed, and this was the first time Joseph had reached out to her on his own. But she only sighed and turned off her phone without responding. Since she had decided to let him go, there was no need for further contact. The next day, Ethel changed into her flying fairy costume, preparing to film the iconic blindfolded bed scene today. Rushing to the set, she suddenly heard that Giselle had unexpectedly joined the production, and Joseph had actually pulled strings to swap resources. snatching the female lead role in Longing for the Mortal World for Giselle. Sorry Ms. Ethel. But Joseph gave me the female lead in this drama. However, you don't need to remove your makeup yet, you'll still be performing today's bed scene. Joseph doesn't like me doing intimate scenes, you'll have to work hard as my body double. Giselle smirked with a provocative expression, as if waiting for Ethel to get angry, but Ethel simply tossed out a calm reply. Fine, this was her scene to begin with, she'd already changed into costume. Then let this stand-in performance serve as repayment for all these years of Joseph's care towards her. Before filming began, the director asked Ethel to touch up her makeup. Ethel habitually headed for the leading lady's dressing room, only to encounter Joseph there. He sat on a black sofa, Buddhist prayer beads wrapped around his left wrist, yet holding a glass of red wine. The prayer beads and wine, one a shackle of restraint, the other a dark impulse to break free. Their eyes met. Joseph's gaze darkened, flickering with an inscrutable shadow Ethel couldn't decipher. Her heart inexplicably tightened. Sorry, wrong room. Ethel immediately retreated through the door. After touching up her makeup in the extras' dressing room, the interior set of the grand hall was ready, and the crew had cleared everyone out. The room was dim, with only a few red lanterns casting an ambiguous warm glow. Once filming began, aside from the hum of equipment, there was no one else around. Ethel finished her celestial Buddhist dance, the white gauze fluttering down to wrap around her slender waist and cover the upper half of her face, blinded. She then caught the scent of alcohol-laden masculine breath approaching. Before she could even feel nervous, an airtight kiss descended, leaving her breathless. The scent of alcohol mingled with familiar sandalwood, making Ethel flustered. Leo, the moment she spoke, the kiss grew even more fierce. As if the man wanted to devour her whole, Ethel felt increasingly uneasy. Tearing off the white veil, she suddenly saw the man before her clearly. How could it be Joseph? Ethel pushed Joseph away with force once more. In the silent hall, even their panting was audible. The man sat sideways slightly above Ethel, yet his gaze remained firmly locked on Ethel. The deep darkness in those eyes pressed down on her, making her instinctively hug herself and step back, watching her movement. Joseph suddenly tightened his grip on the Buddhist beads around his wrist and stood up with one hand pushing off the ground. The terrifying danger from moments ago instantly dissipated. Ethel stood up as well, staring at the man who still appeared aloof and ascetic, suddenly wondering if that wolf-like intensity had just been her imagination. Then came Joseph's low, accusatory whisper. This is the female lead scene, what are you doing here? Ethel knitted her brows, eyeing the man with suspicion. Hadn't he been the one who forbade Giselle from filming intimate scenes, insisting she step in for this one? Why was he now accusing her of stealing the spotlight? Ethel felt exhausted, in no mood for arguments, and weary of his warnings. She made her stance clear without hesitation. Don't worry, I won't bother you anymore. I'm leaving the set today. With that, she turned and walked away, not caring what the man behind her might be feeling. Back at the hotel, Ethel collapsed onto the bed after removing her makeup. Though it was just a scene, it had exhausted her so much that she fell into a deep sleep. I slept very restlessly that night. Until I was awakened by Susan's phone call. Ethel, the intimate scene stills got leaked by someone, and now the internet is flooded with those explicit bed scene photos. Ethel opened Twitter to find her photos topping the trending searches. One showed her in her celestial dancer costume, the other completely nude. After 5 years in the industry, Ethel had seen her share of malice and remained relatively composed. Susan, I didn't take off my clothes during filming today. That photo is photoshopped. I know, someone's deliberately trying to smear you. Ethel, go find the director now and ask who was present during today's shoot. I'll contact PR to suppress that fake photo. After hanging up, Ethel stood to leave when her phone pinged. Giselle had suddenly posted a new real-time Twitter update. The person in the photo isn't me, though I'm the female lead in Ms. Ethel. The intimate scenes were performed by my stand-in. This statement sent the internet into an even greater frenzy. Giselle, isn't this just indirectly admitting that Longing for the Mortal World really has sex scenes? Ethel actually got naked for the film. Ethel failed to pursue love for 5 years, and now that she can't latch onto a big shot, is she just giving up completely? That figure is really something. Wonder which sugar daddy old men got to enjoy it behind the scenes. Giselle posted a Twitter that nailed Ethel to the pillar of shame. Even if the PR photos were photoshopped, netizens wouldn't believe it unless Giselle publicly apologized. Ethel didn't go to the director, but called Joseph directly. But after several consecutive calls, no one answered. Ethel returned to Cleargarden immediately, but Joseph did not see her. She waited outside Cleargarden, gazing at the bedroom she had watched countless nights. As night fell, the lights in the bedroom came on. The curtains were drawn inside, and 2 shadows, one tall and one short, intertwined on them. Ethel watched expressionlessly. She rubbed the body prayer beads on her wrist, their coolness seemingly seeping into her heart. She sat there all night, until the darkness retreated and the sky began to lighten. Joseph came to see her of his own accord. Ethel looked up and saw the scratches and hickeys on his neck. Her eyes, having stayed up all night, suddenly stung with pain. She staggered to her feet. "I'm not here for you. I want to see Giselle." Joseph coldly refused. Giselle was right. Instead of asking her to clear up the scandal for you, you should just quit the industry. You were never cut out for the entertainment world in the first place. Ethel paled, staring at the man before her in disbelief. How could he be fingering prayer beads while stabbing her in the back? All these years, had he been practicing Buddhism or cultivating a heartless path against her? She gave a bitter laugh. "You mean to say that just because of Giselle's careless remark, I should bear this stigma forever?" After a few seconds of silence, Joseph finally spoke. "Didn't you always want a rose garden when you were 17? I'm giving it to you now as compensation." That year when she was 17, he bought the rose garden. They picked out rose seeds together and planted them. He said when she turned 18 and became an adult, he would give her the rose garden. Later, they had a falling out. The scene remains unchanged, but the hearts have altered. All original intentions are betrayed. Ethel, red-eyed, curled her lips in mockery. "What if I refuse? Are you determined to shield the wrongdoer, Giselle?" What answered her was Joseph's words, spoken without the slightest hesitation. "Giselle is your aunt by marriage. My future wife. While I'll only ever be your uncle in this lifetime. Understand? Why can't you understand? One is the wife, one is an adopted niece with no blood relation. The distinction between close and distant is so obvious." "I understand," Ethel murmured softly, yet straightened her back. She removed the body prayer beads from her hand and looked expressionlessly at Joseph. "I'm returning these to you. I apologize for pestering you these past 5 years. And I'm grateful for your care over the last decade. As you wish, I'll keep my distance from you forever." Uncle, she would never call him that again. His indulgence toward others had trampled on her dignity. She wasn't so shameless as to keep smiling at him. That afternoon, Ethel went to the temple where Joseph was practicing asceticism. She climbed the matchmaking tree, retrieved the wooden prayer plaque she had once earned by kneeling through 3,000 steps, and prepared to destroy it. As fate would have it, she ran into Giselle again. Ethel, what a coincidence, are you also here at the matchmaking tree to pray for love?" Ethel had no mood to deal with her and tried to leave, but Giselle grabbed her hand. The wooden plaque engraved with Ethel, Joseph, was revealed. "Move aside." Ethel coldly pulled away, yet Giselle showed no anger, instead gazing at her with a smile. "Though the matchmaking tree is indeed miraculous, it's best to sever improper feelings early, lest they harm both parties. Don't you agree? By the way, your uncle and I came here today to pick an auspicious date for the engagement. As his niece, you'll definitely attend the engagement banquet, right? After all, you grew up living with your uncle, your bond must be very deep." She emphasized the words "your uncle" with particular weight. It sounded like both a reminder and a warning. Ethel met her gaze, her voice icy. "Are you done? Finish talking. You'd better understand. And take it to heart. After all, a niece should know her place." Giselle had barely finished speaking when Ethel slapped her hard across the face. Slap. Giselle's left cheek quickly swelled red. "You dare hit me?" Ethel wasn't the least bit intimidated by Giselle's borrowed authority. "Why wouldn't I dare? Go ahead and complain to Joseph. This is exactly what you owe me." Ethel turned away, only to spot Joseph standing not far off, fingering his prayer beads. Who knew how long he'd been there? Ethel remained unafraid. She'd been doted on all the way into adulthood. Never was she some soft persimmon for anyone to squeeze. The only reason she could be hurt was because she cared. Now that she no longer cares, Joseph has nothing left to fear. She raised her hand to show him the wooden love token, her voice eerily calm. Giselle was right. Feelings that shouldn't exist should have been destroyed long ago. Things that shouldn't remain should also be destroyed. Ethel casually tossed the marriage token into the furnace right in front of Joseph. The temple furnace burned with perpetual flames. The wooden plaque turned to ashes the moment it was thrown in. Ethel didn't linger, striding straight past Joseph without so much as a glance in his direction. She truly treated Joseph as a complete stranger. She had no idea Joseph had been staring intently at her retreating figure, the Buddhist prayer beads in his hand stretched taut to their limit. After the matchmaking plaque was destroyed, Ethel's last proof of loving Joseph vanished as well. The tickets to Provence were already prepared. She had been staying at a hotel these days. Joseph never came looking for her again. The butler of Chenyuan did call her several times to check in, saying the bedroom had been redecorated and asking when she'd return. She didn't mention leaving, casually brushing it off, the day before her departure. The company summoned her to discuss contract termination. Ethel paid the endorsement breach penalty and casually released her retirement announcement. Susan knew she was leaving and that she wouldn't be coming back, so she insisted on taking her to a discreet bar for drinks, call it a farewell toast. Before they could even clink glasses, they ran into Joseph. Joseph was dressed in a bespoke suit, buttoned up tightly, revealing only his prominent Adam's apple and slender wrists. As if he'd rushed over from some international conference, he was also unusually not wearing the Buddhist prayer beads that were almost always with him. Ethel, come home, as concise as ever. Joseph seemed certain that Ethel would obey, but this time, Ethel deliberately took a swig of whiskey right in front of him. Mr. Pay, I lost my home 10 years ago. Joseph darkened his face. Susan disliked Ethel even more than Joseph did. She directly pulled Ethel toward the second floor. Mr. Joseph, didn't you leave the clergy for love? You should spend your time taking care of your young wife instead. Ethel, let's go. My brother asked me for your WeChat not long ago. He really likes you. The two ignored Joseph's dark expression and entered the VIP booth on the second floor, but shortly after sitting down, the bar manager awkwardly came in to inform them that due to special circumstances, they wouldn't be operating today. Ethel lost all desire to have fun upon leaving the bar. She ran into Joseph again. How laughable it all was. For years she had struggled in vain to see Joseph, and now that she no longer wished to, he had come knocking on her door. The man stood at the bustling entrance of the bar, his aloof demeanor starkly out of place. He approached Ethel on his own, his brows tightly furrowed as if he had something important to say, but all that came out was, "Let me take you back to the hotel." No need, since we agreed to keep our distance. Let's honor that promise. Ethel, after being rejected, Joseph didn't follow her anymore. Ethel returned to the hotel, checked her documents, washed up, turned off her phone, and fell straight asleep. Early the next morning, Susan drove her to the airport. The phone screen was flooded with Twitter notifications as soon as it powered on. Ethel, last night's retirement announcement is trending again, with online buzz claiming Ethel was desperate but unwanted, forced to slink away and become some sugar daddy's mistress. Susan couldn't swallow this insult. She directly logged into Ethel's Twitter account, posting screenshots of Ethel's inherited assets, along with the heart-shaped pink diamond ring worth 300 million yuan that her aunt bought for Ethel. She even deliberately captioned it with, "Ethel is a genuine heiress. You broke-ass losers online can't afford her. The fairy isn't playing with you anymore. She's quitting the scene to get married." Ethel, too embarrassed to take her phone back, said, "Susan, my aunt's whole family is waiting to pick me up at the exit in Provence. Just get rid of this phone for me." With that, the boarding announcement sounded. Ethel's flight was ready. The two sisters embraced one last time. Susan choked back tears as she urged, "Ethel, you must be happy from now on." "I will, and so must you." Ethel took one final look at the city she had lived in for over 20 years, then turned away and walked toward the boarding gate without looking back. 10 years of companionship, 7 years of admiration, 5 years of entanglement. "Joseph, I can finally let you go. Hope we never meet again." And just as the plane took off, Ethel's phone started ringing frantically. Incoming call. Joseph. 5 years later, Starsea Airport. "Hey, isn't that Olivia over there? The photographer who created a masterpiece like Hopeless Despair is actually a woman, and Chinese at that." The airport staff member sent to pick her up stared in disbelief at the woman emerging from the terminal. High-waisted jeans and a brown leather jacket accentuated her slender curves. Her black Doc Martens moved with a light step, her fair skin standing out strikingly among the crowd, unrestrained and effortlessly cool. "So beautiful. Wait, why does she look familiar? I heard she used to be in the entertainment industry, but suddenly quit to get married. Ethel, holy shit, it's actually her." As they spoke, the woman had already turned her gaze toward them holding the sign. Ethel raised her hand slightly toward the airport staff. "Ming Ying Studio." The staff member quickly nodded, respectfully taking Ethel's luggage while stealing glances at Ethel. Unable to help marveling, she was the very embodiment of flawless jade-like skin and an ethereal complexion. So beautiful. Working in the entertainment industry, they'd seen countless beauties, but Ethel is truly the first person I've seen who looks 10 times better in real life than on camera. Let's just say if Ethel were to make a comeback now, her beauty alone could dominate trending searches for a month. She's unbelievably gorgeous in person. Sorry for the trouble. Don't trouble yourself. "Olivia, it's been a long journey. Let me take you to the hotel to settle in first." Ethel followed the staff member into the car, gazing at the familiar yet unfamiliar streets. Ethel felt a tumult of emotions in her heart. It had been 5 years since she left City Starsea. Time really flies. She had thought that once she went to Provence, she would never come back in this lifetime. But her second aunt told her that since she had let go, she shouldn't be afraid of facing old acquaintances and past events. otherwise, there would be regrets for a lifetime. So, she's back. Along the way, at regular intervals, you could see the Kennedy family's businesses, big and small, with countless promotional and endorsement videos of stars of all sizes. It made Ethel feel utterly distraught. Actually, she had already let go. Perhaps it was the apprehension of nearing home, gazing out the window. She unexpectedly began recalling scenes from 5 years ago. Fortunately, 5 years ago she had resolutely chosen to leave, otherwise by now, she might have truly become the laughingstock of the entire Star Sea. Noticing the awkward atmosphere in the car, the staff saw Ethel looking at the large screen outside the window and tried to make conversation. "I heard you used to be a celebrity too. But I left the industry to get married," as she spoke. The group's eyes all gathered on the diamond ring on Ethel's ring finger. They couldn't help but wonder what kind of man could marry such a beautiful and talented woman. Hopeless Descent has nearly swept all the major international awards it could win, especially in cinematography, achieving a Grand Slam. Olivia's fame has also gone global. This time, to ensure the new film's entry to Cannes, no expense was spared. The cast is entirely composed of veteran actors. The sets are extravagantly costly, and most importantly, production was delayed for 8 months just to accommodate Ethel's schedule. This alone speaks volumes about Ethel's formidable talent and influence. The film, which gathered a star-studded cast, waited for her alone before starting production. After the staff settled Ethel into the hotel, Ethel had them take her to the Rose Garden. The Rose Garden was a private residence under the Kennedy family's name. Back then, Joseph protected his beloved but ended up ruining her acting career with scandalous photos. As compensation, Joseph transferred the Rose Garden to her name as reparation. She didn't originally want it, but her best friend Susan said she shouldn't take the loss. The damage was already done, no point fighting over money, so she handed the Rose Garden over to her friend to handle. Now the Rose Garden has become a famous tourist attraction in Star Sea. Basically, out-of-town visitors to Star Sea must take photos at the Rose Garden, otherwise their trip would be incomplete. Ethel knew Susan had already embraced a retirement lifestyle decades ahead of her time, tending to flowers in the Rose Garden by day, occasionally playing tour guide for visitors, living a life of pure contentment. After 5 years apart, her first visit back should naturally begin with seeing Susan. Meanwhile, at the Kennedy family conglomerate, Assistant Mandel knocked on the CEO's office door, signed contract in hand. "Come in." The clear, cold voice perfectly matched the public's impression of their CEO, a Buddha-like figure. But only those inside the company knew that ever since Ethel left, their CEO had become a workaholic, strict with himself, and equally strict with others. The entire Kennedy family business kept expanding, yet some employees were beginning to voice their grievances. "Mr. Joseph, Olivia has arrived at Star Sea, and the contract is signed. We're ready to start filming anytime." "Good. Let her make any requests she needs. Dawn approaches must be done right," Joseph replied in a low voice without even looking up, merely raising his hand slightly as Mandel handed him the contract. Seeing the familiar handwriting, Joseph's pupils suddenly trembled. Olivia, for some reason, as he uttered this name, the face of Ethel flashed through his mind, every smile and frown. Just like in his dreams these past 5 years, when she smiled at him with tender sweetness. He misses her so much. "Ethel, where are you? Come back, will you?" Gradually gathering his thoughts, Mandel pulled up the itinerary on his tablet again. "Should we continue monitoring the Rose Garden? For 5 years, Ms. Ethel hasn't made any contact with the Rose Garden." The Rose Garden. This name, like the name Ethel, hadn't been mentioned in a long time. He still remembered. The Rose Garden was the gift Ethel wanted most when she was 17. Later, he gave it to her, but she never once went to stay there. Though he occasionally heard news of the Rose Garden, he never set foot in it again. He knew that Ethel, after leaving, had transferred the Rose Garden to Susan. "Keep watching. If she makes contact with the Rose Garden, I'll contact you immediately," Mandel replied respectfully. With that, he left the CEO's office and was just assigning tasks to the secretarial staff when the person in charge of guarding the Rose Garden rushed in. "Olivia has gone to the Rose Garden." "Olivia? What's she doing in the Rose Garden?" Mandel felt puzzled, yet something seemed subtly amiss in his heart. If it were just to see the scenery, the person lying in wait wouldn't have made a special trip. They must be acquainted with Susan. But Olivia has been abroad for years. How could she possibly know Susan? After a moment's thought, Mandel resolutely stepped forward. "Let's go to the Rose Garden." In the Rose Garden, Susan held Ethel's hand with tears in her eyes. "Sending you away was both my biggest regret and the thing I least regret. Back then, I truly prepared myself to never see you again. It's so good that you're back now. This time, will you stay?" "This time, it's hard to say." Ethel thought of that easily jealous and quick-tempered man, giving no definite answer. Watching Susan excitedly grasp her hand, she too was moved, her eyes reddening. All right, I heard you came back this time because of a contract with the Kennedy family. Have you thought it through? What about your feelings for Joseph? Susan left things unsaid, but Ethel understood her meaning nonetheless. She clasped Susan's hand in return and reassured her. Don't worry, Susan. When I left 5 years ago, I'd already given up. I won't make that same foolish mistake again. This is just work. The ring on her finger pressed uncomfortably against Susan's skin. She gazed at Ethel for 2 long seconds before sighing heavily. As long as you've made peace with it. She knew how much Joseph had regretted Ethel's departure these past years. After things with Giselle fizzled out, he'd even sent people to discreetly and not so discreetly pump her for information about Ethel. What else could it be but regret? Susan suddenly gasped as she remembered Joseph had secretly sent people to keep an eye on this place, though they were bound to meet eventually for work. But now, meeting privately in the rose garden, there was bound to be some awkwardness. Susan felt a momentary regret. But she genuinely missed this close friend she hadn't seen in 5 years. She even wanted to have Ethel stay overnight at her place. Just as she was thinking about this, Mandel arrived. Pardon me. Miss Lynn, since you're a friend of Ms. Ethel, and with the holidays approaching, Mr. Joseph sent me to deliver seasonal gifts to you. Mandel's words trailed off abruptly the moment he saw Ethel. If it weren't for the gifts in his hands, he would have really rubbed his eyes and pinched himself to see if he was mistaken. Ms. Ethel. You're back. Ethel turned around, gracefully stood up, and walked toward Mandel with a polite smile, extending her hand. Hello, Assistant Mandel. You must have received the contract by now. The contract. Every day the Kennedy family has contracts as numerous as hairs on an ox, yet only the most crucial ones pass through his hands. But today, there's only the contract of Olivia, the photographer who just returned from abroad. Olivia, she turns out to be Ethel. Mandel connected the dots in an instant and suddenly understood. So Ms. Ethel is none other than the renowned Olivia, that Mr. Joseph over there. He must tell Mr. Joseph quickly. Mr. Joseph's feelings toward Ms. Ethel were crystal clear to him as an outsider. For the past 5 years, I've kept myself clean without a single woman by my side. In the entertainment industry, there are still many who favor those resembling Ms. Ethel. Even Giselle, whom I once publicly announced, was just a show for the occasion. We lost contact long ago. Yet paparazzi still desperately try to fabricate rumors linking us together. Ethel smiled faintly. It's not as exaggerated as you say. Ms. Ethel, long time no see. We've received the contract. You'll be notified of the shooting schedule and location once you've had a few days to rest. Okay, shall I help you move out of that hotel? As for your original room at Chengyuan, it's always been kept vacant for you. But before Mandel could finish, Ethel interrupted. The hotel I visited was quite nice. As for Chengyuan, no need, since I've already moved out. It wouldn't be proper to disturb Mr. and Mrs. Pay again, Mr. Joseph didn't. Mandel wanted to explain that Joseph wasn't married, but seeing the sparkle on Ethel's delicate fingers, the words caught in his throat. Yes, he'd actually forgotten. Back then, Ms. Ethel had left precisely to get married, though no one had believed it at the time. After all, who didn't know about Ethel's feelings for Joseph back in those days? Even her quitting the industry to get married, truth be told, he hadn't quite believed that either. But now, looking at Ethel's ring, Mandel had no choice but to believe it. Then they, Mr. Joseph, had these 5 years been in vain? Then Mr. Joseph and Ms. Ethel, had they completely missed their chance? Mandel exchanged a few more polite words before hurriedly taking the news back to the Kennedy household. The result was the news that Mr. Joseph had gone out. He hurriedly sent a message. Mr. Joseph, Olivia is actually Ms. Ethel. She has already returned to the country and is at the Rose Garden. But there was no reply for a long time. Meanwhile, Giselle, who saw the message, widened her eyes in shock. Ethel, she actually came back, and as Olivia, no less. Hearing the commotion inside the room, Giselle quickly deleted the message and put the phone back in its place. When Giselle appeared in the room, Joseph's expression darkened to the extreme. How did you get in? Get out. The passcode wasn't changed, so I came in. Joseph, you weren't answering my calls or messages, so I had to come find you. Giselle was visibly upset, but Joseph only grew more impatient. Yet, staring at that face bearing a 70% resemblance to Ethel, he ultimately held back his anger. I made it clear I have no interest in you. 5 years ago, I just needed you to play a role in my act. If you overstep like this again and forget your place, the name Giselle will vanish from the entertainment industry for good. Don't, Joseph, I just wanted to ask if I really have no chance for that play. Dawn approaches. Didn't the casting director tell you the result? Joseph spoke rather bluntly. Giselle looked somewhat upset. All the rival young actresses from her cohort got selected, yet she, with her established reputation and being Joseph's protégé, couldn't even land a role in this series. The injustice burned within her. If you're truly serious about joining the production, there's another round of auditions for extras next week, but with your current acting skills, if you don't seriously refine them, you won't even make it as an extra. As the words hung in the air, Giselle found herself completely shut out the door, with a sharp snap. The door closed right before her eyes. Giselle's expression darkened completely. No way, before the filming of Dawn Approaches began, she had already spread the word. Now if she couldn't even get a supporting role, let alone the lead, she'd lose face big time. She had to get in. Besides, the cinematographer was none other than Ethel. How could she possibly embarrass herself in front of Ethel? You've got to find a way to go, right? If I remember correctly, the long-absent Max will also be at tonight's banquet. He's the most crucial figure, the one who's organized multiple large-scale national-level international events, if you can gain his favor. What would starring in some minor movie even matter? At this thought, Giselle's lips immediately curled into a smile. Ethel, are you really not staying with me tonight? Susan held Ethel's hand, unwilling to let go. Having already pleaded multiple times in just this short while, she didn't want to leave either. But she couldn't ignore the importance of tonight's banquet. After all, it was her first public appearance since returning home, though framed as a jewelry-themed dinner. At its core, it remained an investor's banquet for Dawn Approaches. All key personnel were expected to attend, and the organizers had extended multiple invitations to her. Having already accepted, there was no reason for her not to go. She was supposed to return to the hotel hours ago to rest and prepare for the evening banquet, but she couldn't resist Susan's enthusiasm as she kept pulling her into endless conversation, delaying her until the sky grew dim. Susan understood the importance and didn't insist on keeping her any longer. After saying goodbye to Susan, Ethel returned to the hotel, where someone had already brought her evening gown. Ethel changed into her gown, touched up her makeup briefly, and headed to the banquet. Starcy Hotel was surrounded by reporters early on, though it was a private dinner invitation from a renowned jewelry collector. Attendees included not just A-list celebrities but elites from various fields. Even some rarely seen figures who are typically impossible to invite made appearances. Aside from snapping red carpet shots of celebrities, the paparazzi were also lying in wait for Joseph, who hadn't appeared on screen for quite some time, especially since this maverick director is preparing his award-winning masterpiece, with the hype already known across the entire internet. Now, even the announcement of which actor secures a role can trend for 2 days straight. Thus, some speculate that every actor and celebrity invited to tonight's banquet stands a chance to land a role in Dawn Approaches. So much so that paparazzi have started live-streaming outside the hotel, all guessing who might have the clout to attend the banquet. Practically every person stepping out of a car becomes an instant trending topic. Giselle gracefully stepped out of the nanny van and walked onto the red carpet to sign in. Reporters quickly aimed their cameras at her. Although no news had surfaced about Giselle and Joseph since their engagement 5 years ago, many still speculated they had secretly married, especially after high-definition photos of Giselle entering Joseph's villa were leaked that afternoon. Giselle couldn't have really had a secret marriage with Mr. Joseph, could she? How could it be fake? Didn't you see that photo of them using fingerprint recognition to enter the house together? Then why has it only come out now after all these years? And if they were secretly married, why would they still be living separately? These two are so busy. Mr. Joseph spent over a year just preparing for Dawn Approaches after retiring from acting, and Giselle has been filming all over the country too. Though none of her projects made much splash, another car pulled up, and the reporters immediately stopped their gossip. The barrage of comments on the live-streaming pages shifted from discussing the rumors about Giselle and Joseph to questioning Giselle's professional competence, then quickly turned to speculating who might be in this new car. The car door remained closed for what felt like an eternity, building up anticipation across the entire internet. A moment later, the door finally opened. The cameras first captured a pair of white stiletto heels, followed by slender, well-proportioned ankles and feet, delicate and fair, slender legs extended upward, the pure white satin gown half concealing and half revealing the thighs, with a cutout back that accentuated the alluring curve of the waist. Above that was a face so beautiful it seemed otherworldly. Her delicate features were dazzlingly fair, nearly blinding everyone under the flash of cameras. Large almond-shaped eyes, a dainty and perky nose with a striking mole on the wing that added a touch of alluring charm. Yet she exuded an air of pristine purity. Is that a newcomer? Damn, she's stunning. Wait, she looks familiar. Ethel, Holy shit, it's Ethel, the flying bodhisattva from back in the day. Who's Ethel? Someone this gorgeous in showbiz and I wouldn't know. You forgot about that huge scandal 5 years ago. She left the industry soon after and got married. Who knows if it's true or not? Look at the ring on her left hand. Comments like these flooded the online bullet chats, while the reporters on site stared in astonishment. After 5 years, Ethel still hasn't lost any of her charm. She actually dared to show up at this banquet. Could Dawn Approaches be her comeback project? Damn, she's gorgeous. But I think disgraced celebrities like her should just stay out of the spotlight. It's really disgusting. Exactly. Her acting isn't exactly trash, but she doesn't deserve to stand alongside real acting talents. Is she even worth looking at? Not even close. If she's retired from the industry, she should just focus on being a housewife. Knowing she's pretty but still insisting on being a decorative vase, she'll get roasted by everyone. And when the movie flops, she'll finally learn her lesson. With her in it, this film is basically doomed. Forget about awards, it won't even make it to primetime TV. I'm definitely not watching. She's a rich girl, after all, probably just dabbling in the entertainment industry for fun. If you find her disgusting, just don't watch. But soon, such comments were dismissed as whitewashing. The topic instantly trended. The trending topics nearly crashed the platform. #Ethel's comeback. #Ethel starring in Dawn Approaches. #Dawn Approaches destined to flop. #The young miss is back in the entertainment industry for fun. Ethel, having not checked her phone, was naturally unaware of the uproar online. She walked slowly down the red carpet, only to lock eyes with Giselle. Long time no see. Giselle was the first to extend her hand, smiling gently, but only Ethel could hear the gritted teeth behind Giselle's voice. Ethel gave a slight nod, politely returning the handshake with half her palm before withdrawing, preparing to leave without even a sideways glance. But the moment Ethel took half a step forward, Giselle grabbed her wrist. Giselle suddenly raised her voice. "Ethel, after disappearing from the industry for so long following that nude photo scandal, what brings you back all of a sudden?" This seemingly harmless remark actually fueled the on-site and online discussions to another climax. Countless netizens began digging into Ethel's past scandals, speculating that her marriage leave was just an excuse. The real reason was attaching herself to a powerful figure. Now with this backing, she got the chance to star in Dawn Approaches. Otherwise, with her mediocre acting skills, how could she possibly compete with award-sweeping leading actors and actresses? If this isn't capital forcibly propping someone up, then what is? But some viewers posted bullet comments suggesting that perhaps after 5 years, Ethel's acting skills might have improved. The few words of support were quickly drowned out by the tide of mockery. A handful of people even managed to bypass the firewall in such a short time to find Ethel's overseas award photos. Wait, that award she won seems to be for photography or something when translated. That's the IPPI competition. Damn, she's got that kind of skill. Or is this another case of behind-the-scenes favoritism? The few genuine inquiries were ultimately drowned out by the barrage of comments. Of course, it's work-related. Ethel faced the camera with effortless grace. Showing not a trace of nervousness, Giselle stared at the dazzlingly beautiful Ethel, grinding her molars so hard she nearly cracked them, yet still managed to force out a smile. Is it for the role in Dawn Approaches? Before the official announcement, everyone had signed non-disclosure agreements. So Ethel just smiled slightly. No comment. In short, it's different from MS, Ethel. As soon as these words were spoken, netizens' bullet comments started rolling in again. What does that mean? Is it saying Giselle isn't in Dawn Approaches? Giselle's acting isn't as good as Ethel's anyway. What are you dreaming about? Giselle is director Pay's protégé. Would they really give the grand prize to Ethel instead of their own? Besides, there's no official announcement about her yet. Netizens buzzed with discussions, sparking comparisons between Giselle and Ethel. 5 years ago, everyone said Ethel looked like Giselle, but I think it's Giselle who resembles Ethel. How could someone breathtakingly beautiful resemble the one who's merely similar? Same here. But Mr. Joseph officially announced Giselle, so no matter how beautiful Ethel is, it's useless. As the topic heated up, a Rolls-Royce pulled up to the red carpet. The barrage of comments went wild again. "Mr. Joseph, that's his car. Please welcome the CEO of the Kennedy Group, Joseph." The host's voice faded as the car door slowly opened. A pair of impeccably polished leather shoes touched the ground. Joseph was clad in a perfectly tailored suit that accentuated his well-toned physique, showcasing an impeccable figure. His handsome face remained untouched by the passage of time. Ethel looked over, not a single difference from 5 years ago. Just as strikingly handsome, though now with an added touch of mature scholarly charm. Joseph nodded toward the camera before walking forward, in that slight upward glance. His entire body instantly stiffened, his footsteps halted abruptly, as if frozen in place. His pupils trembled violently as Joseph heard his own voice utter, "Ethel." He had never imagined their reunion would occur at this very moment, even for a moment. He thought this might be a gift intentionally sent by some business partner, but in just an instant, he recognized the person before him. It was his Ethel, the Ethel he had been searching for 5 years. In stark contrast to his nearly uncomposed expression was Ethel, who calmly extended her hand toward him. "Long time no see, Mr. Joseph." Joseph's eyes darkened repeatedly. He had imagined countless reunions, but never expected it would begin with her calling him Mr. Joseph. Each step he took seemed to tread directly on his own heart, and his usually composed face nearly lost all restraint because of that form of address. She had returned, yet she was so distant and formal with him. "Did you hear that just now, Mr. Joseph?" called her Ethel. "You must have misheard, Mr. Joseph wouldn't call her so intimately. I heard it too, but it's normal for a senior to address her that way. Other seniors are normal, but don't you see who this person is? This is the aloof Buddhist monk Joseph. Have you ever seen him act like this with anyone else?" The journalists' back-and-forth comments were also shaping public opinion online, but for every critic, there were fans shipping them. "Why do I feel Ethel and Mr. Joseph look so perfect together? I photoshopped them side by side. Their visuals are absolutely stunning." Bullet comments with red background images underneath. Below were a flood of holy shits, along with some vicious insults from Giselle's braindead fans. "Ethel still has fans whitewashing her. How much does a spin machine cost these days?" The only publicly acknowledged, "Best Giselle" by Mr. Joseph. "Some people are just green-eyed and drooling. Even crashing a dinner party requires shameless clinging." Exactly, Mr. Joseph just said something polite, and then some brainless idiots started shipping them. Don't they find it creepy themselves? The host, seeing the comments fermenting on their phone, promptly spoke up and ushered everyone into the inner venue. Meanwhile, Joseph's gaze never left Ethel the entire time, which led to several more trending topics. Joseph stares at Ethel. Joseph gazes at dogs with affectionate eyes. Ethel ignores Joseph. Only after entering the venue did Ethel find time to check her phone. Staring at countless trending topics about herself, she was far less concerned than she had been 5 years ago. People have mouths, and she can't stop them from saying whatever they want. It's better to just pretend not to see it. Her state of mind was now far more composed than it had been 5 years ago, including when she saw Joseph. In truth, before returning home, everyone around her had worried about her feelings toward Joseph, what scene might unfold when she saw him. But only she knew, when a heart dies, it truly dies. There's no such thing as coming back from the dead. Joseph is Joseph, 5 years apart, each living a brand new life. This is just fine as it is. So when Joseph came walking toward her again, Ethel didn't shy away. Instead, the wine glass dipped slightly lower Joseph as he clinked glasses with the man. "Mr. Joseph, once the shooting schedule is finalized, you can have Assistant Mandel notify me anytime. Just give me 2 days to adjust to the time difference, and I'll be good to go." Countless people inside the venue were also watching the scene unfold. Some even pretended to casually walk closer, eavesdropping intently on their conversation. Upon hearing this, they couldn't help but think, what nonsense were those online speculations? These two were being so formal with each other, addressing each other as Mr. Joseph every other sentence. Fortunately, the trending couples chart online was instantly updated. "Yes, all right." Joseph listened to Ethel's extremely polite and businesslike tone, and the words "Ethel, how have you been these past 5 years?" stuck in his throat, never to be spoken. Joseph had never realized he could be so indecisive. Ethel at 18, when she confessed her feelings, he had been decisive, using actions to show her what was acceptable and what was beyond her reach. He feared that she mistook familial affection for love. He also feared that he couldn't control the beast in his heart. He was several years older than her, afraid she might make the wrong choice, so he could only keep his distance. But Ethel, now after 5 years of her disappearance, even a simple greeting to her had become something he dared not utter. So cautious had he grown, afraid that by the next day, she would disappear again. Just like 5 years ago, after one night, she vanished without a trace, leaving not even a hint of herself behind, so cleanly, as if she had never been there at all. 7 years she had pursued him desperately, 7 years he had turned a blind eye, and yet, it had all been wrong. "You've lost so much weight." Joseph's voice was filled with heartache and longing. Seeing the emotions threatening to spill from the man's eyes, Ethel maintained her composure. "After all, I'm getting engaged soon. Looking thinner makes for better photos." Boom. His handsome face visibly paled. The ring on the ring finger refracted the light at this moment, appearing exceptionally glaring in Joseph's eyes. Yet he couldn't even utter a single word of "Who is it?" Joseph, Max is over there and wants to buy you a drink. Giselle suddenly appeared, her voice sweet and soft, but her gaze was utterly provocative. A woman who disappeared for 5 years and even got married now holds no influence over her. The sudden rise of Hedda poses a far greater threat to her, even though Hedda closely resembles Ethel in appearance. But after all, Ethel is married. Hedda was genuinely prepared to seduce Joseph. Thus, she didn't consider the returning Ethel as competition at all. Because Max was a senior figure in the industry and had a generational friendship with the old man of the Kennedy family, Joseph cast a deep glance at Ethel before heading toward Max. "Wait for me." Joseph said this to Ethel. Ethel nodded, glanced at Joseph and the Giselle following behind him, then calmly turned her head away. She carried her glass of red wine to the balcony for some fresh air, lost in her own thoughts. If she had known she would run into such unpleasant people, she wouldn't have come. "Hello, miss. Are you alone? May I have the honor of buying you a drink?" Ethel looked at the somewhat familiar man and realized he was the male lead from the recently popular idol drama. She overheard a bit when the studio folks were chatting and gossiping about everything under the sun. "This person has sugar daddies, more than one, and they come in both genders. You're so busy with everything, yet still find time to flirt around." Ethel scrutinized the man, her eyes turning cold. "No, thank you," she refused blandly. The man had been tilting his chin up, looking down his nose at others with an air of arrogance. "Ethel, to be honest, this person is really good-looking, arrogant, and sleazy." She didn't want to say more and turned to leave. He, in a fit of pique, grabbed her wrist instead. "Do you know who I am?" Nathan was furious. His recent hit drama is all the rage, with unprecedented popularity and traffic. Who wouldn't shower him with praise? When has he ever been treated with such cold indifference? Just because he's a bit good-looking, they're putting on airs with him now, as if he joined the industry too late to know about Ethel's scandal 5 years ago. "What are you pretending for? Your nude photos were all over the place back then. And now you're acting all high and mighty in front of me." At the mention of nude photos, memories of being viciously attacked online 5 years ago flooded back. Ethel's expression wasn't exactly pleasant, but she didn't seem particularly angry either. Her state of mind 5 years ago was completely different from how she felt now. There are so many unbelievers. Must she really grab someone by the ear and force them to believe in her innocence every time someone slanders her? After all these years in the entertainment industry, Ethel has learned one crucial lesson: never justify yourself for things she didn't do. She explains once and moves on. Whether others believe her is up to them, but that doesn't mean anyone can step on her face and trample her. She was about to retort when she heard a voice as cold as ice behind her. "What kind of trash are you?" Daring to point fingers at her, Joseph revealed his frosty expression, the air around him dropping to an icy low, as if they'd stepped into a freezer. Nathan recognized Joseph and quickly changed his tone. "Mr. Joseph, I was recommended by Orville. This Ethel insulted me for not being cast, so I had to defend myself." Nathan, with his handsome face and a tone full of grievance, anyone who saw it would praise his acting skills. Ethel suddenly felt like laughing. No wonder he became so popular, but with such despicable character, he probably won't last long in this cutthroat entertainment industry. "Orville. Mandel, tell Orville that all collaborations are terminated effective immediately. As for this thing, throw it out, starting tomorrow. I don't want to see a single trace of him." With just one sentence, Joseph completely severed Nathan's acting career. Nathan had thought he could still act coquettishly and perhaps win over a cold CEO like Joseph, but he never expected that in just 1 minute, his life would be turned upside down. "No, please, Mr. Joseph, Mr. Joseph, I was wrong. Ethel, sister. Please put in a good word for me, sister, I was wrong." Nathan collapsed to his knees, begging for mercy while kowtowing to Joseph and clutching at Ethel's skirt hem, completely oblivious to Joseph's increasingly frosty gaze. "Throw him out." Joseph rarely lost his temper, but Mandel quickly directed the bodyguards to drag the man out through the back door. The movements were clean and decisive, and within just 2 minutes, the commotion in this corner was completely quelled under the astonished gazes of the onlookers. "Sorry, he had an episode," Mandel explained expressionlessly. No one believed it, but they had no choice but to accept it. Mandel is Joseph's person. Who would dare question anything? Those attending this banquet were either cast members of Dawn Approaches or hopefuls seeking an opportunity to join the production. Moreover, who would dare speak ill of Joseph? Everyone was just curious. How did Nathan, a freshly skyrocketed star, manage to offend Joseph, this living king of hell? Those bold enough with good hearing moved closer to the balcony, only to be Mandel stopped in their tracks. By the moonlight, they caught just a fleeting glimpse of a profile. "Ethel, it's her again." Amidst the murmurs of the crowd, A different perspective began to emerge about this woman who had withdrawn from the circle 5 years ago due to scandal. What exactly is her relationship with Joseph? He's not wrong, Mr. Joseph, why are you so angry? 5 years ago, I really had no right to say no about the nude photos. Ethel made a double entendre, and Joseph's expression turned extremely unpleasant. One sentence, Mr. Joseph almost pushed him away harshly once again. Before he could even get close to her, he was pushed even further away. It's not like that, Ethel. He attempted to explain but was interrupted by Ethel. Mr. Joseph, I have something to attend to, so I'll leave first. With that, she didn't even give the man a chance to speak before walking away. Her wrist was seized once again, yet the grip only tightened slightly. It was clear even the strength was being fiercely restrained, as if afraid of hurting her. Standing back to back, neither turned around first, nor spoke first. After a long while, the man slowly released her wrist and turned away. I'll take you back. No need. My assistant is already waiting for me, Uncle. You still have to give your speech. It wouldn't be appropriate. Freed from restraint, Ethel walked straight ahead without even looking back. Just like 5 years ago, Joseph's panic intensified once more. Mandel had never seen Mr. Joseph like this before. The ruthless Joseph, who treated people as mere grass and ants, actually had such a pitiful side to him. Mandel couldn't help but sigh, thinking about the shrine from 5 years ago. It's all karma, all fate. What was that novel his girlfriend always read called Chasing Love Through the Crematorium? This must be what they mean. But if Mr. Joseph were to chase love, he'd surely put in all his might. After all, he's just a poor, overworked employee. Only when the boss is happy can he be happy. Ethel glanced at the reporters camped at the entrance and ultimately didn't leave early. She found a dim corner to sit in, but Ethel forgot that her beauty would always be the center of attention wherever she went. She saw many men heading in her direction, only to be intercepted halfway. She knew it was Joseph who had arranged this. That scorching gaze remained fixed on her, never wavering, thinking about the fabricated articles the journalists were about to publish, and feeling that persistent gaze upon her. She finally weighed her options and stood up, preparing to leave. At that very moment, the gaze shifted away. Joseph was invited by the host to come on stage and speak. Later, the host intermittently introduced the actors and guests. Ethel listened absent-mindedly, ready to leave. She wasn't part of the entertainment industry anymore, so whatever the reporters wanted to say, she simply didn't care. It's mainly that guy from Country M. If he sees those nasty comments about her, he'll probably start worrying again. Thinking about the trending topic with Joseph on Twitter, she frowned slightly, hoping he wouldn't see it. When it comes to comforting men, she's truly out of her depth. With this thought, Ethel still cautiously had the car driven to the back in trance. There must have been reporters staking out the back door too, but with fewer people around, Ethel made it through smoothly. But the moment the door opened and Ethel sat in the back seat, she froze completely. Cedric, when did you come back to the country? Ethel was genuinely shocked. Before returning home, her company had held her back, and she had to coax them for a long time before they finally agreed to let her return, while she obediently waited in M country for her shoot to finish. Yet she had just arrived back home. If it wasn't premeditated, then the moment she left, how could he have followed right after? What's this? After just one meeting with your ex, you're ready to shift your affections already. The tone was sarcastic, but Ethel just wanted to laugh, staring at Cedric's handsome face. That usually chatty mouth of his was unusually quiet today. Feeling jealous? You brat, Ethel teased him in English before seriously explaining. That's my uncle, not an ex-boyfriend. Cedric remained silent, his gaze sharpening as he spotted the lurking reporters outside the car. With a press of the accelerator, he sped away. Hey, why didn't you tell me we were taking off? Ethel teased him deliberately, but the man was clearly not his usual self. Be serious, Olivia. I know he's more than just your brother-in-law. Cedric gritted his teeth so hard they nearly shattered, the veins on his steering wheel clenching hands bulging violently. Suddenly, a smacking sound, warm lips pressed against his cheek. Cedric slammed his foot on the brake. He sat rigidly still, slowly turning his head with eyes brimming with both grievance and joy. Ethel slightly pulled her lips away. Still don't believe me, before the words could fade. The man viciously clamped his fingers around her chin. A domineering and fervent kiss immediately descended like an overwhelming storm. Cedric, Ethel pushed hard, her tone tinged with indignation. Every time, it was as if he wouldn't stop until he'd kissed her lips swollen. Endless strength like an ox. Just focus on driving your car. This time it was Ethel's turn to be angry. Cedric's expression returned to normal, and he even whistled cheerfully, humming along with the car music. Ethel had him in her heart. This realization swept away all the gloom in Cedric's heart. God knows how much he regretted it after promising Ethel to wait obediently for her in Country M, and how devastated he was after work, staring at the empty home and Ethel's nearly gone belongings. He couldn't wait any longer and immediately had someone book the earliest and fastest flight back home. Following her return, only to see one trending topic after another about her and Joseph, 5 years ago when they first met, he already knew about her past. How could he not be aware of Joseph's place in Ethel's heart? That's why he panicked. He regretted watching her agree to take Joseph's job, and momentarily losing himself in her coaxing, actually planning to wait for her return like a lovesick fool. In M Country, was there any top director or script he couldn't get for her? Why did she have to come back, even if she had temporarily forgotten about Joseph during these years with him? What if they had to work closely together on set every day? That was the man she had loved for so many years. For the first time, he felt such intense jealousy toward another man, one who had once received Ethel's complete, unconditional love. This thought had never ceased echoing in his mind throughout his journey, but now, he felt a slight release, not just because of this reassuring kiss. Even more so, he looked at Ethel in the rearview mirror, her lips slightly pouted on the back seat, looking as puffed up and angry as a little pufferfish, such an ethereal beauty who appeared aloof to the outside world, only in front of him, seemed like a child who would never grow up, casually throwing little tantrums. Seeing him look over, she glared back with dewy doe eyes, yet she remained completely unaware of how utterly alluring she appeared like this. Cedric glanced at the bulge in his lower abdomen, floored the accelerator, swiftly pulled up to the hotel, and dragged the person upstairs, his voice hoarse and pitiful. "Honey, I'm not feeling well." Ethel's response was to slowly lean closer to him, then whisper deliberately in his ear, "Take care of it yourself." Then she opened the door and gradually pushed him out. "I know your room is next door. Didn't have time to book one." Cedric blinked his puppy dog eyes. "Yeah, right. You even knew the exact hotel floor and room number, yet dare claim you hadn't gotten around to booking yet. You little rascal," Ethel complained inwardly. Every time she stayed at a hotel for business trips, didn't he promptly book a room next door, claiming it was to guard her ladyship? This time would certainly be no exception. A sly glint flashed through the man's eyes. There was no way he'd willingly suffer such grievances, so he said with apparent resignation, "Honey, then give me a kiss. And I'll go take a cold shower." Ethel quickly fell for it, standing on her tiptoes and closing her eyes as she offered her rosy lips. Cedric felt his heart pounding, his mouth dry as he eagerly captured those lips that sent his mind reeling. In the midst of extreme twists and turns, Cedric lifted his eyelids with satisfaction, locking eyes with a man, his domineering and provocative gaze pressing down on Ethel as he used the woman's body to shut the door completely. Inside and outside the door were two different worlds. Joseph stood completely frozen, staring at the closed door, his chest unmoving for a long time. He had escorted her all the way, only to witness her willingly offering a kiss to another man. The fortress in his chest seemed to have completely collapsed. Everything was telling him that Ethel no longer wanted him. She had completely given up on him, turning away to embrace another man's arms. He didn't know how long he had been standing there before turning to go downstairs. Mandel was somewhat startled, not expecting Mr. Joseph to return so quickly. "Go take care of some matters, Mr. Joseph, you were saying." Thus, under Joseph's deliberate interference, Cedric ultimately failed to get his wish. Just as Cedric kissed his way from the living room to the bedroom, slightly lifting the hem of her dress with the atmosphere heating up, a doorbell rang, completely shattering the mood. Cedric wanted to pretend he didn't hear it and continue, but Ethel had already snapped back to, "Cedric, someone's at the door." Cedric wanted to continue, but the moment their lips touched again, the beauty beneath him gave him a light slap on the face. "Are you under a love spell?" Yes. He was under a spell named Ethel, addicted beyond cure. He lowered his head once more, lightly pecking the woman's lips before reluctantly getting up to button his shirt and answer the door. "Hello, sir. The guest next door complained about our noise. The room next door is literally the one he booked himself." "What the hell is he complaining about?" "Joseph, it must be him. Such petty tricks, how childish." Thinking of Joseph standing outside the door earlier, Cedric could barely contain his smugness. To stake his claim so blatantly and have his rival witness it, he'd be laughing in his dreams. "You're still laughing after getting complained about?" Ethel nearly facepalmed in exasperation. While Cedric maintained his nonchalant expression, he must be jealous. Once the mood was broken, it was hard to get it back. Cedric wheedled and acted cute for a while but still couldn't steal another kiss, so he sighed. "Then will my wife take me in tonight? Otherwise I'll be all alone, helpless and pitiful." Stop right there. As the heir to the Carter family's capital empire, with business operations spanning nearly the entire country in M Nation, and here she was playing the pity card. She could casually buy out an entire hotel with a wave of her hand, yet pretended to be destitute and alone, but Ethel still softened her heart and let the person stay. Of course, it was sleeping on the sofa, yet the next morning, the moment she opened her eyes, the man embracing her from behind tightened his grip around her waist. "Good morning, wifey." The slightest movement from her would wake him, whether it was late at night or early in the morning, he could always respond to her immediately. It must be said that Cedric's thoughtfulness deeply moved Ethel. They fell in love 3 years ago. His courtship was old-fashioned and lacked originality, but her persistence made him see himself in her, that same recklessness, that same moth-to-flame desperation. She met Cedric 5 years ago on a flight to Provence. Later she asked, and according to Cedric himself, it was love at first sight, not at all concealing her appearance first. "Looks are everything," sighed. Ethel didn't call him shallow for caring about looks either, because she was the same. Her first Joseph liking was simply because he was handsome. Then, as they spent more and more time together, she gave her heart away only for him to not want it. Later, the two found themselves heading to the same destination, even meeting at the end point. From then on, two parallel lines began to intersect. What started as friendship between them gradually grew into familiarity. Then came the pursuit, lavish like a nouveau riche, throwing money and resources at every turn. But Cedric grew up in Country M, with Provence being his second home, yet he willingly shuttled between the two places for her. She knew he hated flying the most. Yet he embraced it gladly for her sake. It was hard for her not to be moved. Later, when her photography career began, she had to move to Country M for development, a highly dramatic scene. Both were on the same flight when, as the plane ascended to high altitude, a turbine sucked in a wild goose. The plane crashed, plummeting almost vertically with one wing down. Yet at that life-or-death moment, Cedric, seated 2 rows away from her, still rushed over to shield her beneath him. Holding her tightly, the heart that had long been silent suddenly stirred back to life, beating once more. She still remembered him saying, "Don't be afraid." Perhaps the screams were too heart-pounding, or perhaps the plane's descent sent adrenaline surging through her veins in that instant. His voice was the only thing left in her world. She heard him clearly say, "Ethel, I've liked you since the first moment I saw you." In such circumstances, who wouldn't feel their heart skip a beat at such a confession? The plane crashed, but fortunately the captain fought valiantly to save it. In the end, although the plane went down, not a single person died. In the entire cabin, apart from a few passengers hit by falling luggage, the most severely injured was only the one who unbuckled his seatbelt and rushed to shield her. Cedric. She wanted to call him a fool, yet she was genuinely and deeply moved. She took care of him in the hospital for a month. That was truly a month of solid progress. It was Cedric's happiest month in memory throughout his life. Ethel's attentive care culminated in her accepting his courtship on the day of his hospital discharge. Cedric seemed to be recalling distant memories as well. With this embrace, he turned her around so they faced each other. The man's face drew closer, then he brushed his lips lightly against Ethel's in a fleeting kiss. "Darling, I love you so much." It seemed like Cedric's daily ritual, yet Ethel never found it perfunctory. What she needed most deep down was to be someone's unwavering choice, to be loved unconditionally, just like how Cedric would tell her he loved her without fail every single day, never concealing his love for her in front of anyone. The entire business and photography circles in Country M know that Olivia's boyfriend is overwhelmingly possessive and loves her deeply. He never hesitates to express his love for her, making her feel, at every moment, a kind of love she had never experienced before. She suppressed the tears welling up in her eyes, returned the man's kiss with equal intensity, and was about to rise and flee, but the man fiercely encircled her, pressing her down beneath him. Feeling the hardness pressing against her abdomen, Ethel blushed crimson all over her face. "We have things to do today, yesterday." Neither of them had adjusted to the time difference, and they ended up going out for a late-night snack at 5 a.m., before finally coming back to sleep. Now, waking up early, it was already nearing afternoon. "I'll be quick, my wife," Cedric said with a sly glint in his eyes. To get his way, he'd even stooped to cursing himself. God, forgive him. Ethel chuckled as Cedric's fingers were already working on the first button of her nightgown. His surging desire was restrained by the man, each time. He wanted to give Ethel the utmost tenderness, unwilling to frighten her with his roughness. Yet with just a slight glance, a pair of snow-white hands suddenly pressed against him, like lustrous chalcedony. Those delicate, boneless fingers gently yet enticingly held his hand, instead taking the initiative to undo his pajamas. Gazing into those mesmerizing eyes, Cedric's pupils abruptly contracted, nearly losing control, nearly surrendered to temptation. The man's pitch-black pupils fixed intently on Ethel, Like snow about to be melted by raging flames, he slowly, reverently kissed Ethel. His lean, powerful hands began wandering downward with restless intent, lifting the hem of the garment, revealing a snow-white waist. Lower still, this time. Cedric's lips were no longer just skimming the surface like a dragonfly. Ethel stepped out of the hotel when it was nearly evening. She glared resentfully at Cedric, who was driving. The 2 days originally meant for adjusting to the time difference were completely disrupted by him. Her carefully laid plans had gone up in smoke. Cedric smirked in satisfaction, driving with one hand while repeatedly kissing Ethel's hand with the other. He drove the car to Star C's most famous French restaurant. Yet the moment they stepped out of the car, he came face to face with the last person he wanted to see, Ethel. Joseph's voice was hoarse to the extreme. As if he'd been standing in the wind all night and was about to catch a cold. Ethel, who had been momentarily stunned, took 2 steps forward with Cedric upon hearing this, her tone polite yet distant. Uncle. How tender and affectionate that uncle had once sounded, how jarring it sounds now. Joseph gazed at the purplish-red marks on Ethel's neck, a cold glint flashing through his eyes. The man's hawk-like eyes swept over the numerous red marks hidden beneath Ethel's collar near her collarbone. Slowly closing his eyes, he suppressed the raging fire in his heart, reminding himself to stay composed. When he opened his eyes again, they were clear and calm. He gave a slight nod and looked at the man beside Ethel. Hello, you must be the uncle. I've often heard Ethel mention you. I'm Ethel's fiancé, Cedric. It's our first meeting, please be kind, to be precise. It wasn't their first encounter. Yesterday's brief exchange through the hotel door had been enough for both men to sense the gunpowder in the air, so Joseph took the initiative to invite them, making the meal unfold in an oddly tense atmosphere. Ethel glanced at the mountain of steak piled on her plate by the 2 men and kicked Cedric under the table. She shot him a dagger-like glare. Stop fooling around. Cedric pretended not to notice. Would he back down from a battle with his love rival? Cedric forked another piece of meat and fed it directly into Ethel's mouth, coaxing like a child. Tilda. Joseph struggled to suppress his rising anger, patiently pushing the cherry tomato salad toward Ethel. Eating too much meat at night is hard to digest. Have some salad to cut the greasiness, uncle. Cedric called out, subtly pushing the salad away. Didn't you know Ethel can't eat cherry tomatoes? Joseph looked up in bewilderment. After living together for so many years, how could he not know what she liked to eat or what she couldn't tolerate? Yet she would only listen to Cedric, just like back then. During the New Year's Eve dinner at the Kennedy household, someone deliberately made things difficult for Ethel, persistently serving her side dishes instead of the main course to belittle her. Still young and naive to the malice of others, she remembered the kindness of the Kennedy family. No matter who served her or how much, she earnestly ate every bite. So he spoke up. She can't eat anymore, don't serve her anymore. Though she didn't understand, she obediently nodded in agreement that she couldn't eat anymore. As always, giving one's trust without reservation. So Ethel, have you given him your heart, just like the trust you once placed in me? Joseph let out a soft sigh, suddenly feeling that coming with them might not have been the right decision. But as he lowered his head and saw his tightly clenched fist beneath the table, he suddenly felt that perhaps there was still a chance. Ethel was free-spirited and unrestrained. She had just spent 5 years abroad indulging in wild adventures. Yet now that she had returned, how could their shared past be so easily erased? He still had a chance. Joseph took a call and left early. Ethel unconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. Cedric. Hearing Ethel's serious tone, Cedric had already braced himself for a scolding, but when he turned his head, a cherry tomato was popped into his mouth instead. Then he heard Ethel say, Cedric, I love you. The cherry tomato was dressed with salad sauce, not sour at all, leaving a sweet taste in his mouth. His heart felt the same sweetness. Ethel looked at Cedric's silly grin and practically wanted to carve the words I don't know him on her face. The crew was very considerate, or rather, it was Joseph who truly cared for her. They gave Ethel 2 more days of rest before the crew sent over the schedule and location details. Ethel packed her luggage, and just before leaving, Cedric lifted her chin with his fingers. He gave her a tender, lingering kiss, filled with reluctance and restraint. Can you come back every day? I'm scared sleeping here alone. The filming location was in a replica palace, in a historic small town with spotty internet signal. Meanwhile, Cedric had an international conference and couldn't accompany her. Ethel stroked Cedric's hair and comforted him. Being clingy isn't being a good boy. I'll call you when the shoot is over, alright? Cedric reluctantly saw her off into the car. The journey wasn't exactly short, though not terribly long either. The round trip from the small town to the city takes 3 to 4 hours. The script was filmed in chronological order, depicting the gradual decline of a prosperous empire. The English translation of Dawn Approaches is also titled The Last Dynasty. It tells the love story between the Empress Dowager and the Regent, but more importantly, it narrates history through their coming-of-age stories. It subtly observes the dynasty's journey from its zenith to its downfall. The script was created by the queen of historical literary screenplays, undoubtedly of the highest caliber. The actors were selected through 6 rounds of auditions, with each lead perfectly embodying their roles, and all underwent 6 months of etiquette training. The most crucial remaining factor is the level of photography. How to find the highlights in limited space and with limited characters, fully conveying the style of the plot. Ethel's working process differs from other cinematographers. She prefers to first study the script and see the complete story. The first scene opens with a palace maid drowning, and the murderer is the female lead, according to the plot's direction. This isn't meant to reveal the killer's identity to the audience, yet Ethel pointed the camera at the lead actress. Though momentarily startled, Joseph didn't call cut, a veteran actor after all. She instantly followed the emotional flow and continued the scene. A scene played out normally, still within the script's framework without going off track, yet it felt more like an improvised performance following the story's flow. After the first scene wrapped, the lead actress wasn't entirely pleased. She'd seen directors and screenwriters alter scripts before, but this was her first time encountering a cinematographer who didn't follow the script. She was a Triple Crown Best Actress winner. If this film's director weren't the maverick genius Joseph, she wouldn't have taken the role at all. She expressed her dissatisfaction with the photography to Joseph, and Joseph was very direct, calling Ethel over and asking her to shoot a version using the original technique. Ethel showed no expression, only giving a slight nod before saying to the lead actress, "Sorry for the trouble, we'll need you to do another take." The lead actress gave Ethel a disdainful glance. Ever since learning that the cinematographer was Ethel, who had left the industry 5 years ago, she had been harboring discontent. But after this take, the lead actress also came before the monitor to watch her own performance. After viewing the footage, a slight silence fell over those present. Both shooting techniques were undoubtedly top tier, yet by any measure, the effect of the first take was far superior to the straightforward narration of the second. The lead actress raised her eyebrows slightly, looking at Ethel with disbelief, as if she never expected her to have such capability. "This is our first collaboration, so I think it's necessary to introduce myself. The script is good, but the camera serves the characters. My shots will showcase you to the fullest extent. If you find frequent improvisation too exhausting, you can notify me before filming, and I'll shoot in a conventional manner." With this, the actors completely changed their perception of Ethel. What good actor wouldn't want to showcase their best self on screen? Though improvisation is mentally taxing and energy draining, to some extent, it's truly something every actor longs for but can't always obtain. Joseph gazed contentedly at Ethel. His Ethel had finally found a career that suited her and that she was passionate about. Watching the first scene's rough cut, his eyes burned with intensity, as if he could already envision what a breathtaking masterpiece the finished film would become. Olivia's reputation was practically household knowledge in Country M. This was precisely why several of the company's renowned directors had strongly recommended scheduling her. At that time, he had no idea Olivia was her. Then how could she not know this was the Kennedy family's business and project? Yet she agreed. Joseph's heart grew fervent once more. The crew, originally scheduled to shoot only the first scene on day 1 for acclamation, decided to add another scene last minute due to outstanding results. It's all about emotions. Ethel had a great time filming. She enjoys working with skilled actors. I still remember filming a urban drama in Country M, where the lead was a popular idol star who hadn't received any professional acting training and relied entirely on raw talent to wing it. Those 10 days of work felt like an eternity to her. But now, when she checked the time, it was already 8 p.m. Surprisingly, she didn't feel tired at all. "Okay, everyone's worked hard. The director has booked a countryside inn for us. Go relax and enjoy yourselves." After a cut was called, the assistant director began clearing the set. Ethel had just put the lens cap on and checked the time on her phone when the assistant director approached her. "Thanks for your hard work, Director Ethel. Here's some water for you." With that, a bottle of luxurious yet understated Beverly Hills 90H20 was thrust into her hand. Turning around, I saw Joseph. A bottle of mineral water costing $680,000. Couldn't he have used that money for film investments and set designs instead? Although Ethel looked around, all the crew's equipment was top-notch. The sets were the finest. Even the inns where the celebrity actor's assistants stayed were the best available, absolutely impeccable. But Ethel still couldn't bring herself to take a sip. Her entire salary for this movie was only $7 million. Spend 1/10 of that on a bottle of mineral water, more extravagant than Cedric. She mouthed a thank you, placed the mineral water where Joseph could see it, and walked toward the inn. The phone signal was weak. The WeChat message kept spinning for a long time before finally loading. Suddenly, a flood of messages bombarded the screen, noticing the startled glances from passers-by. She quickly muted her phone. She didn't need to look to know it was that brat Cedric. Sure enough, the pinned chat showed 99 plus unread messages. Does he have nothing better to do all day? Cedric glanced over. The messages had started pouring in the moment she put down her phone to work. Cedric had begun texting non-stop. At first, it was once an hour, then gradually increased from every few dozen minutes to every few minutes, from reporting daily routines to bombarding with countless I miss you," plus over a dozen missed calls. Ethel couldn't help but laugh silently. She was about to call back when the phone rang again. Without a doubt, it was Cedric S., off work. The man's voice was icy cold, and Ethel could tell at once he was waiting for her to comfort him. But thinking of those 99 plus messages, she deliberately curled her lips into a smile and said, "I got off work ages ago, just forgot to reply to you." There was a brief pause on the other end of the line. Ethel felt like she could practically hear Cedric's chest exploding with anger, so she hurriedly tried to backtrack. "Just kidding, you mph." Before she could finish speaking, she was abruptly spun around. The next second, a forceful and domineering kiss landed on her lips. Like an antidote desperately sought by its poisoned master. "Forgot to reply to my message. I told you it was a lie." Ethel gently pushed the distance between them a little before belatedly asking, "What brings you here?" "Well, a certain little fibber hasn't been replying to my messages, and I couldn't wait any longer." Cedric spread his hands helplessly. He knew perfectly well that Ethel had just gotten off work. Forgetting to reply to him was just her way of teasing him on purpose. Otherwise, with his temper, he would have stormed into the set long ago. He wouldn't have waited until now. "Haven't you eaten yet? Let me take you out for something delicious." Ethel gave him a nudge upon hearing this. He was 3 years younger than her, yet so cheeky, but her words betrayed her concern. "This is just a small town with home-style dishes. Will you be able to stomach it?" She wasn't picky at all. Cedric, a rich kid who grew up dining at Michelin-starred restaurants and would only drink bottled water with stars when traveling, could he really endure such hardship? "You'll know when we get there." Cedric mysteriously led her to the inn, to her own room. "Wow. It smells so good." The scent of microwave-heated food filled the room, instantly whetting Ethel's appetite. When she saw a table full of her favorite dishes, it was hard not to be moved. "Did you make these? Would this young master ever stoop to cooking?" "I hired a 5-star chef to prepare them specially. Hurry up and try them." "Yeah, right. Which 5-star chef could possibly burn the dishes?" But Ethel didn't expose him. She picked up a bite. Surprisingly, it actually tasted decent. "Not bad at all, little Carter, you've improved." Cedric smirked smugly. "If it's good, have some more." Well, Ethel loved the food, so those 3 grueling hours learning from the chef to prepare these dishes weren't wasted. After dinner, the two took a stroll through the small town. A hot spring was still steaming nearby, but Ethel hadn't brought a swimsuit, so they just wandered around the area with Cedric. It was cozy and delightful, with just a slight turn of his head. He could see Ethel's fair and beautiful cheeks, which made his heart flutter. Cedric thought how wonderful it would be if time could freeze at this moment. Yet, unsatisfied, he also felt that if it were frozen only at this moment, he wouldn't be able to see Ethel at other times. "Ethel, I love you." When love runs deep, one can't help but want to express their affection to the other. Even a simple "I love you" never grows old to say. "I love you too." Ethel never hesitated to respond, giving him a big hug in return. Isn't love supposed to be something that requires mutual response? Back then, it could only be said she was still young, unable to discern the true nature of love. Just a crush made her believe there could be a future between them. As she looked up at Cedric, she saw the man behind Cedric and froze slightly in surprise. "It's Joseph." Joseph seemed to be heading their way. Ethel averted her gaze, stood slightly on her tiptoes, and planted a kiss on Cedric's lips. "Your reward." Cedric froze, catching sight of the man who had halted his steps behind them in his peripheral vision. Watching the girl's radiant smile, a subtle yet profoundly tangible joy instantly filled his heart to the brim. She was his Ethel, his beloved Ethel, voluntarily belonging to him. Ethel. Perhaps it was Joseph's figure that looked too desolate, or perhaps his gaze was too intense. Ethel lowered her head slightly before turning away, avoiding his stare, pulling Cedric away. She didn't know how long those dishes had been prepared, but she knew the round trip from the city to here took 4 hours. Yet the man before her had come all this way just to see her, wanting her to eat well. "You still have a 2-hour drive back. Let me walk you to the intersection." "Okay, Ethel." The usually icy cold voice now carried a faint tremble that Ethel could detect. The voice wasn't loud. She decided to pretend she hadn't heard it, but Cedric clearly heard it. Gripping her hand tighter and tighter, before getting in the car, Cedric pinned her against the door, kissing her over and over until her lips were nearly swollen before finally relenting. Ethel detected a hint of jealousy in that frenzied possessiveness and comfortingly stroked Cedric's head. Actually, having his head touched was somewhat of a Cedric's forbidden zone, but since she liked it, he yielded. Be safe on your way. When the moment of parting truly came, Ethel also felt a surge of reluctance. But separation is for a better reunion next time. At the current pace, it shouldn't take the originally planned 3 months if filming goes smoothly. It could wrap up much sooner. It's too far to come back and forth, and you have international meetings to attend. Don't come over anymore. If time permits, I'll ask the crew for a day or 2 off to visit you. The mountain roads are treacherous, and driving while fatigued could easily lead to accidents. Since he didn't hire a driver, she was more worried than anything. Really, Ethel nodded. After watching the car drive away, she turned around and saw Joseph again. She thought that kiss would let him know she didn't want to be disturbed right now. Uncle. She greeted politely and was about to leave, but her hand was grabbed. Ethel, don't treat me like this. Can't we go back to how we were before? Ethel paused in her steps, not turning back to look at Joseph's face. The past, Uncle, the past is gone. Now is now. Back then, I was young and foolish. The trouble I caused you was my fault. Now, Cedric and I are doing well. Before she could finish, her hand was yanked forcefully, her body spun around abruptly, and her cheeks were cupped by the man's hands. Ethel saw clearly. Joseph's eyes were bloodshot. You've fallen for him. It was an accusation, tinged with resentment. Ethel's pupils contracted sharply as she abruptly pushed the man away when his face drew closer. Uncle, please behave with dignity. With that, Ethel left with long strides, her expression dark, refusing to meet the man's gaze again. Once she showered him with affection, but he turned up his nose. Now that her heart belongs to another, does he dare question why her feelings changed? The past is simply the past. She suddenly regretted taking this job. She thought letting go would allow a fresh start, never realizing it was Joseph she couldn't release. Mandel blocked her after the incident in the rose garden and told her about Joseph and Giselle, yet her heart remained utterly unmoved. What did it have to do with her anyway? She should never have come back. Once this shoot is over, if there's nothing else, just follow Cedric back to M Country. That brat would probably be over the moon if he knew. Thinking of Cedric, Ethel didn't even notice the smile tugging at her lips, and behind her, Joseph. His body remained frozen in the posture of being pushed away, motionless for a long while. After what seemed like ages, the man gazed at the maple tree not far away. The golden maple leaves and gnarled branches exuded a desolate loneliness. The weather was gradually turning colder. Beneath the most towering maple tree, there should still be frozen ground. Joseph stared at the tree, yet it was as if he saw the withered leaves scattered across the ground and the trunk gradually withering away. Just like his heart, Ethel, he shouldn't have rejected her confession at 18, shouldn't have avoided his own feelings. Can time be turned back? Is there such a thing as a pill for regret in this world? If there were, he would give everything he had, just to start all over again. Filming progressed smoothly every day. During a break, Susan visited the set. Upon learning there were hot springs in the town, she even specially brought 2 swimsuits. Deeply Ethel's heart. After a day's work, the two soaked in the hot springs, chatting and joking just like old times. I was shocked when I saw the male lead today. You wouldn't believe it, the hottest rumor circulating about the male actor right now is Leo. Seeing Ethel frown in thought, Susan exclaimed, "Oh, that's the guy who was supposed to film a kissing scene with you but never got to. He even asked about you afterward. Seems like he was smitten after just that one shoot with you." Huh, no way. Ethel was startled, recalling a gentle face. At the time, no one knew who he had offended. He was completely shelved, almost blacklisted. But these years have finally brought him sweet rewards after bitter struggles. He won the Best Actor award purely through his own talent. That's why there's so much speculation online about his participation this time. Doesn't Joseph only care about talent and acting skills? Would he really pass up such a powerhouse performer? Joseph not just look for talent and acting skills. Would he really pass up such a powerhouse performer? Ethel suddenly felt as if she had been the one holding Leo back, and an inexplicable guilt welled up in her heart. Susan stayed in the small town for 2 more days before reluctantly leaving. Cedric was indeed obedient. Afraid of upsetting her, he stopped with the surprise visits. Though the daily phone calls never ceased, the moment she had a spare second, his call would instantly pop up. Even during Ethel's 1-minute break at work to drink water, Cedric would clingily call just to say how much he missed her. Ethel thought that if Cedric were a cat, he'd undoubtedly be the clingiest, most affectionate ragdoll in existence. Another day of filming had come to an end. Honey. How much longer? I miss you so much. We're already halfway through filming. It should wrap up by the end of the month, but I might be able to take 2 days off next week and come home. So, please stop sending me things. Cedric might not be here in person, but reminders of him were everywhere. Afraid she might feel lonely alone, they sent a life-sized plush pillow with Cedric's full-body photo printed on it, worried she might not sleep well in an unfamiliar bed. They shipped over the mattress and pillows from Country M, when they didn't fit the inn's bed frame. That rascal simply had someone replace the entire bed at the inn. Concerned she might not adapt to the local cuisine, they directly hired a chef to go on a business trip to the inn, staying next door to prepare her 3 daily meals, if not for the strict identity checks by the small town's film crew keeping reporters out. She truly suspected she'd be exposed by tabloids for throwing unearned diva tantrums. There were also endless packages arriving every day. She was only here for a 1 or 2 month work trip. Cedric acted like he wanted to remodel the entire inn into their shared American home. Ethel couldn't help but feel both amused and exasperated, so the moment her break started, Ethel immediately prepared to rush back to the city, since all the cars were being used to transport the actors. Ethel had to find her own way to hail a taxi. She planned to surprise Cedric, so she didn't tell him she was off today. After downloading 3 ride-hailing apps and waiting in vain for a ride, a low-key yet luxurious Mercedes-Benz slowly pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, revealing Joseph, whom she hadn't seen outside the set for days. On set, she could always feel the scorching gaze wandering over her. But once she started working, she could automatically tune it out, but outside the set was different. Like now, she couldn't pretend not to see it and could only say politely, "Mr. Joseph, it's hard to get a taxi at this hour. The cruise car won't be back for another 2 or 3 hours. Get in, I'll drive you back." Ethel hesitated for a moment, but ultimately got into the car. The two remained silent throughout the journey, Mandel, acting as the driver, occasionally glanced nervously through the rearview mirror at the oppressive atmosphere behind him, beads of cold sweat forming. "Just focus on driving." Joseph's voice was icy as he slightly lowered his gaze, his thick lashes casting deep shadows that concealed his unwavering, unconcealable gaze fixed on the person beside him. Ethel gazed at the rapidly receding greenery and trees along the roadside, aware that the person beside her was watching but feeling utterly helpless. "You weren't this quiet before," the man suddenly spoke, as if reminiscing about the past. Ethel pondered for a moment before replying. "Back then, I was too noisy. Naturally, I had to learn to change what made me unlikable. Back when Joseph used to ride in the same car with her, she would chatter non-stop from getting in until getting out, just to catch his attention. Looking back now, she really had been a bit annoying. What if I never thought you were noisy, and never disliked it?" The car suddenly fell into an eerie silence. After a long pause, she no longer cared about Mandel's presence in the car. Turning her head solemnly, she said coldly, "Uncle, you were my uncle in the past, and now, as well as in the future, you will only be my uncle. I have a whole new life now, with a boyfriend who cares deeply for me and loves me. I hope we can completely put the past behind us. It was my fault for not understanding better before, for bothering you. I'm sorry." Joseph remained silent, but the car suddenly came to a screeching halt. Sensing the boss's nearly murderous gaze, Mandel stammered, "We're here." Ethel glanced out the window and saw they had arrived at the hotel, then opened the car door. Halfway out of the car, one foot still inside, someone tightly grabbed her wrist. Yet the voice behind her carried a plea. "You can't stir my heart like this and then pretend nothing ever happened." Ethel turned slightly, meeting Joseph's reddened eyes. She had never seen him like this before, yet she still pried open his hand and said indifferently, "My 7 years of reckless devotion must have troubled you. I'm sorry, but wasn't it you, Uncle, who pretended none of it ever happened?" With that single sentence, Joseph turned completely pale. Ethel, after her confession, it was he who first changed his expression. How could it be her fault? Yet the heart had already been given away through days and nights of companionship. How could it possibly be taken back? Click, click. Joseph's gaze instantly sharpened as it swept past the faint glimmer flashing through the grass. "Mr. Joseph, I'll handle the negotiations." Mandel also noticed the paparazzi's cameras. Just as he was about to step out of the car, he saw the rear door being shut by the man. Joseph had already regained his usual cold and detached demeanor, a glint of shrewdness flashing beneath his lashes. "No need, since they've already been caught on camera, let the rumors brew for a while, Cedric." But for an impulsive young man, Ethel was just a passing novelty. If suspicions arose over some ambiguous reports, how could someone of Ethel's temperament consider him a suitable partner? On the way back, Mandel felt that Mr. Joseph had changed somewhat. He couldn't pinpoint exactly how, but there was definitely something different. Ethel's surprise for Cedric naturally received a gift in return from her lover. She only had 2 days off, yet ended up spending both of them unable to leave the bed. Originally, she was supposed to return in the morning on the second day, but the man kept pulling her back into bed, indulging in passionate intimacy until the afternoon before finally letting her go. It was only when Cedric pouted with unsatisfied desire, demanding her promise to properly compensate him after her shoot, that he reluctantly allowed her to leave. Another month has passed. The filming wrapped up smoothly. At the wrap party, Ethel only made a brief appearance before leaving early. She had just returned to the inn when Cedric pulled her into a tight embrace. Surprise. Wifey, aren't you happy I came to pick you up? Ethel was startled that he had come, yet still keenly sensed Cedric's unusual emotions. He held her much too tightly today. Could it be that he missed her too much after not seeing her for so long? Without dwelling on it further, she directed the man who clung to her like a teddy bear charm to pack their luggage. There were indeed many, so Cedric had the foresight to bring couriers and assistants along. Before long, the room emptied out. Ethel bid farewell to the crew, and the two of them set off on their return journey. Cedric drove himself, which was why Ethel had the chance to browse through her phone. The moment she opened Twitter, she understood the reason behind Cedric's unusual behavior today. Photos Joseph took while escorting her back to the hotel that day were leaked, though their faces were pixelated. But how could Cedric, who knew her as well as himself, fail to recognize it was her? Wait, that's odd. Given his temper, wouldn't he have demanded an explanation from her by now? She glanced at the posting time. 2 days ago. The internet was in an uproar. With everyone speculating about the woman's identity, the overwhelming comments instantly reminded Ethel of the cyberbullying storm 5 years ago, when insults against her flooded every platform. This time was different. Perhaps it was the different shooting angle, or perhaps the male lead's posture in the photo was too submissive. But online, aside from speculation about his identity, some even started shipping them. I can tell even through the mosaic that the male lead's eyes were slightly red. He was begging the female lead not to leave with tears in his eyes. How could the female lead bear to pry those hands away? Oh my god, hand fetishists can't take this. Those distinct knuckles and prominent veins, this is the definition of perfect hands. One gazes up at his sky, one goddess looks down upon all. I'm dead from the feels. Quick, tell me who the real couple is. I'll drag the marriage registry office back for them myself. Is this a breakup to reconciliation grand scene? No splitting allowed. Marriage registry squad, lock them in forever. This guy, doesn't he look like Joseph? Mr. Joseph, and the girl, resembles Ethel. Get out with your random shipping. Commenter above. Reading the comments section where people were arguing over this, Ethel frowned so hard she nearly turned into the Subway grandpa meme. Seeing the usually talkative Cedric remain silent the whole way, she also began to feel uneasy, perhaps out of curiosity or a touch of mischief. She who always preferred straightforward people, she suddenly wondered how long Cedric would wait before asking her. Yet it wasn't until they reached the hotel, until evening fell, just after they finished watching a movie, that Ethel provocatively placed her hand on Cedric's chest. The man stiffened, then abruptly lifted her from his lap and set her aside, standing up straight as a rod. You should rest well tonight. I'll sleep next door. Ethel was taken aback and nearly burst out laughing, watching Cedric walk to open the door. Ethel silently counted down in her heart. 3, 2, 1. Do you still love me or not? Cedric whirled around, loudly demanding with a mix of grievance and anger. Phut, Ethel genuinely laughed. Cedric had half his anger dissipate, yet still stubbornly pretended to leave. You're still laughing, you and Joseph, if you really still like him. I'll book a ticket back to country right now. Aren't you going to ask about the photo first? Ethel said with a breezy tone, as if the woman in the photo wasn't herself. Cedric indeed withdrew his hand from the door, looking at her pitifully like an abandoned kitten. Ethel had no choice but to explain everything to him from start to finish. Those 2 days I was here with you the whole time. How could you still misunderstand? Recalling those 2 days of shameless living, Ethel felt her face flush red once more. Cedric had visibly softened his expression and shamelessly pressed closer again. Darling, and so, another night of shameless passion followed. Ethel, whose back was nearly broken, still couldn't comprehend Cedric's seemingly endless energy, tossing and turning, refusing to end even after 3 or 4 times. The sky is about to light up. Wife, you sleep first, I'll handle the aftermath. Ethel was indeed exhausted beyond words, but how could she possibly sleep first in this situation? The Cedric riding atop her passionately covered her mouth again when he noticed her gaze. Beneath her, it was evident he filled her even more completely now. After it was over, Ethel suspected she must have fainted. For when she awoke her body was clean, yet she had no memory whatsoever of being carried to be washed. How utterly excessive. She decided not to pay any attention to Cedric for the entire morning. Another half-month passed. Ethel finished reshooting some of the necessary scenes, then discussed with Cedric and decided to return to M Country. Online buzz about the photos cooled slightly as the promotional period for Dawn approaches. Began, with the cast and crew being officially announced. Netizens then compared the banquet photos one by one and discovered that not only was Ethel absent, but Giselle was missing too. Some observant netizens began combing through all the staff credits, only to find Ethel listed under the cinematography section. Just as the buzz was gaining momentum, it was quickly overshadowed by another verified expose post. #Giselle framed Ethel in nude photo scandal. #Giselle got thrown out naked on the street after failing to seduce Max. The moment the actual photos were posted, Twitter nearly crashed. Holy shit, so it wasn't Ethel 5 years ago, she was framed by Giselle all along. TSK. What was she thinking trying to seduce Max? Didn't she know Max is gay? Wait, isn't Giselle with Mr. Joseph? What kind of Mr. Joseph supporter would have a career in shambles like this all these years? The Kennedy family just released a statement saying it was all collaborative PR back then. If she were really Mr. Joseph's person, how could her career have tanked so badly? I think she's truly done for. I have friends in the media who say Mr. Joseph gave his endorsement. Probably because he couldn't stand Giselle acting all high and mighty these years, riding on others' coattails. Damn it. Turns out Ethel was innocent in that nude photo scandal. Sorry for kicking you when you were down back then. Hey, don't even get me started. I also have media friends who said that viral photo set from a while back was actually Mr. Joseph and Ethel. Holy shit. After wave upon wave of trending topics, yet another round of hot searches arrived. Uncensored live shots from the hotel entrance were released, just as netizens had speculated. Joseph groveling in the dust, Ethel cold and unyielding. Nearly the entire internet shipping them collectively lost their minds. Holy shit, it's really them. Where's that prophet? Get him out here. I told him to fuck off before, but I'm apologizing now. Oh my god, they're so perfect together. Doesn't everyone know they're uncle and nephew? Well, fake uncle and nephew, of course. This is even more like a novel now. Can they just get married already? Thus, the heated discussion it sparked once again dominated headlines for 3 days and nights. What followed was Dawn Approaches becoming a massive hit even before its release, with reservations skyrocketing past 3.5 billion. Some experts even publicly analyzed that regardless of its content, the show's popularity alone was unprecedented and unlikely to be surpassed. Ethel had no time to pay attention to any of the above news, because she and Cedric went to Country Y together, where summer arrived early due to the climate, and the two had a great time. Cedric was just about to buy a direct flight ticket from Country Y to Country M when Ethel received news from the film crew. The reason cited for the cuts was that Ethel needed to return to reshoot scenes with the two leads. Ethel, being extremely diligent and responsible in her work, raised no objections and had Cedric purchase return tickets. Cedric, though inwardly displeased, expressed full support. Whatever my wife says goes. However, upon arrival, Ethel discovered that the lead actress was currently abroad due to scheduling conflicts. With the release date imminent, it was already completely impossible for her to return in time. Just as the crew was at their wits' end, someone muttered, "How about using a body double? I think Ethel she's back view looks quite similar." With the costume on, it would definitely pass as the real deal, and so it was decided just like that. Ethel was an actress after all, so she wasn't particularly shy about it. She was just worried that she couldn't portray the female lead's sense of release and heartbreak towards the male lead at the ending, given the complex plot. After all, the emotional journey between the originally cast male and female leads had been built up over several months of storyline. She had intended to rehearse with the male lead to get into character, but it wasn't until filming began that she saw him arrive fashionably late. The two stood on the steps, one above and one below, at different heights. Ethel froze the moment she saw the male lead. It was actually Joseph. They hadn't seen each other in a long time, but with the call of action, the two instantly slipped into character. Joseph knelt at the feet of Ethel, now the Empress Dowager, yet his gaze and kneeling posture pressed forward relentlessly, ascending step by step with each prostration. Neither character received a close-up, only their feet were visible as Ethel slowly retreated before Joseph's advancing kneels. Yet in the blink of an eye, beyond the camera's view, Ethel's eyes turned sharp as she planted her feet firmly. Then she turned her back and swiftly ascended the high platform to receive the homage of all officials, making a clean break with her past. A wide-angle shot captures the heroine's rebirth, while the male lead's receding figure grows increasingly small and desolate. The film concludes with the homage ceremony ending. The Empress Dowager, surrounded by countless attendants, appears utterly lonely, while on the other side, the regent departs alone, his solitude starkly evident. These two figures, now walking divergent paths, mark both the film's conclusion and the final punctuation of their intertwined lives. Ethel thought this ending resembled her and Joseph, yet she wasn't someone whose glamour concealed only boundless loneliness. She looked toward Cedric leaning against a pillar nearby, waiting for her to finish work. She has a lover, she has someone to lean on. Joseph watched Ethel darting toward another man, and suddenly, his heart felt hollow. His Ethel had ultimately flown into another's heart, gone forever. Daybreak Approaches became a box office legend upon its release. Flawless acting with no trace of performance, fuller-dimensional characters, a perfect script, and impeccable cinematography. When netizens learned Ethel was behind the camera, some immediately began dissecting the cinematographic composition. It turns out there's nothing left but sheer admiration. The photography style perfectly matches the theme, opulent yet decaying. Magnificent with a faint aura of death, it elevates a simple love story to the grand scale of dynastic upheaval in an apocalyptic world. Soon, people uncovered that Olivia, the renowned figure in Country M, was actually Ethel, the visionary behind countless jaw-dropping cinematic shots. Its unique shooting style and dazzling yet comfortable transition cinematography have sparked waves of photography trends. Some experts claim that the entire crew of Dawn Approaches will go down in cinematic history as legendary. This was followed by gossip about renowned cinematographer Ethel and maverick director Joseph. But the next day, the trending topics exploded again. Ethel publicly announced her relationship with Cedric and their upcoming engagement date. Nosy netizens immediately dug into Cedric's background. The findings left everyone stunned. Turns out he's the heir to the Carter family capitalists in Country M. Damn, what's Ethel's background? How does she keep attracting all these top-tier men? I also found out Leo, the award-winning actor, was blacklisted for ages after filming that kissing scene with Ethel. So tragic. Oh. Ethel watched Cedric's face darken as he scrolled through Twitter comments on the couch, amusedly snatching his phone away. Why keep looking if it makes you angry? You even kissed Leo. Recalling the old incident, Ethel looked exasperated. That was just work. Miles per hour. Cedric, put me down. Put me down now, Ethel said urgently, and Cedric actually obeyed, releasing his grip. Ethel landed directly on the bed. Before she could even get angry, the man pounced, nibbling her lips as he whispered temptingly, "Give yourself to me." No, Ethel firmly refused. "You're going to be a father." Cedric froze mid-action, his face lighting up with wild joy. "What, you're going to be a dad?" Before the words had fully landed, Ethel found herself lifted off the ground as Cedric scooped her up, tossing her briefly in the air before pulling her into a tight embrace, his eyes glistening with tears. The next moment, the man dropped to one knee, producing a brand new ring from nowhere. With solemnity and tears streaming down his face, he said, "Dear Miss Ethel, I love you so much, so very much. Will you marry me?" Ethel's eyes reddened as she whispered, "I do, and what's more, I love you so, so much too." Happiness flooded her heart, and in response, the ring slipped onto her ring finger. It was the man's passionate, loving kiss, brimming with tears.